A very good morning to you, and we are glad you have joined us this morning. This is a live broadcast of the Senate, and this is a special sitting. This is pursuant to the House Standing Order number 33, and this is a live broadcast that is brought to you by the Parliamentary Broadcasting Unit in partnership with the Kenya Corporation. On this day of 29th of August, 2023, the Senate is convening this special sitting with about 4 businesses lined up for transaction or to be considered on the floor of the Senate. And this is pursuant to a Gazette notice that was published by the Speaker of the Senate, Honorable Amason Jeffa Kingi, notifying the senators that this day, this morning, the House will be sitting for this special sitting to consider, among others, the message from His Excellency the President on the nomination of Mr. Andrew Mukite Musangi for appointment as chairperson of the board of the Central Bank of Kenya, as well as a message from the National Assembly on the resolution by the National Assembly establishing the National Dialogue Committee. There is also the message from the National Assembly on the passage by the National Assembly of the Climate Change Amendment Bill 2023, Bill number 42 of 2023, as well as the consideration of the Public Finance Management Amendment Bill 2023, originating from the National Assembly, Bill number 16 of 2023. So that is basically what the notification to the senators on this special sitting entailed, and that is what has been captured in today's order of business. In the order of business for this special sitting is that the Climate Change Amendment Bill, National Assembly, Bill number 42 of 2023, will be tabled for first reading. This will be done by the Senate Majority Leader, Honorable Aaron Cheruiyot. This bill will be read for the first time. Before I take a look at what this bill entails, let me go to the Standing Order number 33 that entrenches this particular sitting. It's an order that speaks over the special sittings at the Senate, and it indicates that whenever during a session the Senate stands adjourned, whether or not a day has been appointed for the next meeting, the Speaker may, on the request of the Senate Majority Leader or the Senate Minority Leader, and in each case with the support of at least 15 senators, appoint a day for a special sitting of the Senate. Remember, currently the senators are on a 3-week recess that is supposed to end on the 4th of September. They will be resuming on the 5th, but following these particular businesses that are urgent and need urgent consideration by the senators. Therefore, it has prompted the senators to convene this special sitting. And in the standing order, it indicates that on the request of the Senate Majority Leader or the Senate Minority Leader, and in each case with the support of at least 15 senators, will appoint a day for a special sitting of the Senate. So this is the day that the senators, with the House leadership as well as 15 senators, this being the House quorum number that is usually considered, the House is the number that has agreed to appoint today to hold this particular special sitting. Standing Order 33.2 indicates that the Speaker may allow a request under paragraph 1 if the Speaker is satisfied that the business proposed to be transacted relates to the matters specified under Standing Order 74. And this is a definition of a special motion or other urgent and exceptional business as the Speaker may allow. 33 Part 3 indicates that the Speaker shall, by notice in the Gazette, notify the senators of the place date and time appointed for a special sitting of the Senate. And that is exactly what the Gazette notice entailed: the business to be transacted, the time, the place, as well as that particular date. That Standing Order 33 Part 4 indicates that despite paragraph 1, where the proposed business to be transacted by the Senate requires the action of the National Assembly, the Speaker shall in writing notify the Speaker of the National Assembly of the date appointed for the special sitting. And 33.5 indicates that whenever the Senate meets for a special sitting, under paragraph 1, the Speaker shall specify the business to be transacted on the day or days appointed by the business so specified shall be the only business before the Senate during the special sitting, following which the Senate shall stand adjourned until the day appointed in the Senate calendar. And as you can see at the entrance of the Senate chambers, the Speaker of the Senate, Honorable Amason Jeffa Kingi, is in the chambers. He will be presiding over this special sitting. Allow me to hand you over to this live broadcast brought to you by PBU in partnership with KBC. Good morning.
Mighty God, we beseech you to behold with abundant favor and blessings us, your servants, whom you've been pleased to call to leadership positions in this republic. We seek guidance to treat and consider all matters that shall come under deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those whose interests you've committed to our charge. Amen. Clerk, do we have quorum? Sergeant at Arms, kindly ring the quorum bell for 10 minutes.
Well, the Speaker of the Senate, Honorable Amason Kingi, has directed that the quorum bell be rung. Of course, this is pursuant to the House Standing Order number 40, that at the commencement of a sitting of the Senate, if the quorum is not achieved, then a bell will be rung for 10 minutes. This is, of course, to allow the members to be able to make their way into the chambers to enable the House achieve the requisite quorum. According to the Standing Order number 40, is that if there is no quorum present when the chair is taken at the time appointed for sitting of the Senate, the Speaker shall immediately after the prayer order the bell to be rung for 10 minutes. The House requires a minimum number of 15 members to be seated in the chambers for the House business to start. That is nominated Senator Gloria Oroba, if I am not wrong there. She has just walked in. Other members, we will be seeing them. That is the Minority Leader, Stewart Mazayo there. Of course, we will be seeing Oburu Odinga there walking in, Honorable Oburu Odinga there walking in. So we will be seeing members of the Senate walking into the chambers. Remember, this is a special sitting appointed for this particular day and to start at around 9:30. So the Speaker is already in the chambers, and this is an allowance for the members who may be within the precincts of the chambers and of the parliament, but yet to get into the chambers to be able to make their way and enable the House achieve a quorum of 15 members for the commencement of the business of the day. This is a special sitting that has around 4 businesses to be transacted. This is according to what was indicated in the Gazette notice that notified members of this special sitting. The members are currently on a 3-week recess, but this day has been appointed to enable them consider the business that was forwarded to them either from the executive or from the National Assembly. The Climate Change Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 42 of 2023, is one of the bills that the members will be considering this morning. It's a bill that is lined up for first reading, and it will be tabled by the Senate Majority Leader, Honorable Aaron Cheruiyot. The object of this bill, which is originating from the National Assembly, is to amend the Climate Change Act 2016 to provide for the regulation of the carbon markets. And this bill indicates that the Climate Change Act 2016 is national legislation intended to enhance response to climate change and provides mechanisms and measures to achieve low carbon climate resilient development, but it indicates that the Act does not provide a legal framework for carbon trading. It is a bill that was passed at the National Assembly, so it is in the Senate as we speak now, and it will be read for the first time on the floor of the Senate this morning. The members of the Senate will again consider the Public Finance Management Amendment Bill originating from the National Assembly, Bill number 16 of 2023. Again, it will be tabled by the Senate Majority Leader. This bill is at its second stage, and a debate on this bill already kicked off on the floor of the House. And this morning's debate on this bill will be a resumption of a similar debate that was interrupted on Tuesday, 8th August 2023. And members will be going into division on this particular bill. And then the bill is also lined up to be considered at the Committee of the Whole stage by the senators. We have just seen there the Majority Leader and Minority Leader walking out of the chambers. We believe that they are out to mobilize the members to be able to get into the chambers. Remember, the sitting was scheduled to start at 9:30 and currently is a 10-minute quorum bell that gives room for the members who are yet to walk into the chambers to be able to get into the chambers. And this is a special sitting that was purposely or solely convened to enable the House consider a number of businesses. So definitely we'll be expecting the members to be working. That is the Deputy Speaker of the Senate, of course, accompanied by other members, Nyeri Senator, Kitui Senator, also walking in. So in a short time, once the quorum of 15 members is achieved, the Sergeant at Arms will alert the Speaker that the quorum has been achieved, and the Speaker will call the House to order for the business of the day to start. Members of the Senate will also be considering a motion. This is a motion that is moved by the Senate Majority Leader as well as the Senate Minority Leader, and this motion is on the establishment of the National Dialogue Committee that was already passed at the National Assembly. But of course, for it to be within the Constitution, then it also needs to be considered at the Senate. So that is part of the business that the senators will be considering. Remember, this dialogue committee, National Dialogue Committee, brings on board two parties, or rather two sides. One is from the government side, and the other one is from the opposition side. This is, of course, to consider a number of businesses or a number of issues that have been highlighted all along in this journey of seeking for consensus on a number of issues that are affecting the country. So the National Dialogue Committee is already in place and has already been passed by the National Assembly. So members will be looking at taking a close look on what exactly this committee will be tasked to do, its mandate and various issues, and of course consider it with a view of approving it, so that to enable the business planned for it to continue. Allow me to hand you over. We can see the speaker talking. Have a good morning.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair.
Senator, kindly have your seat. Now, honorable senators, I welcome you to this special sitting of the Senate. I regret to interrupt your recess, but this has been necessitated by urgent legislative business which requires to be dispensed with. On the request of the Senate Majority Leader, via letters reference number Senator/MLS/06/S.S/Co, dated 24th August 2023, and with the support of the requisite number of senators, I appointed today, Tuesday 29th August 2023, as a day for a special sitting of the Senate. The appointment was made via Gazette Notice number 11081, dated 24th August 2023. In the Gazette Notice, I indicated that the business to be transacted at this special sitting shall be as follows. 1, receipt of messages, including message from His Excellency the President on the nomination of Mr. Andrew Mukite Musangi for appointment to the position of Chairperson of the Board of Directors of the Central Bank of Kenya. And 2, message from the National Assembly on the passage by the National Assembly of a resolution for establishment of the National Dialogue Committee. And 3rd, the message from the National Assembly on the passage by the National Assembly of the Climate Change Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bills number 42 of 2023. Consideration of the Climate Change Amendment Bill, National Bills number 42 of 2023. 3, consideration of the Public Finance Management Amendment Bills, National Bills number 16 of 2023. And finally, the consideration of the motion on the establishment of the National Dialogue Committee. Honorable Senators, in accordance with the Standing Order 33.5, the business specified in the Gazette Notice referred to above and as outlined in the order paper shall be the only business before the Senate during the special sitting, following which the Senate shall stand adjourned until Tuesday, 5th September 2023 at 2:30 p.m. in accordance with the Senate calendar. I thank you. Next order, Clerk.
Order number 3, messages.
Honorable Senators, I wish to report to the Senate that pursuant Senator Lominen I wish to report to the Senate that pursuant to Standing Order 47, I received a message from His Excellency, the Honorable William Ruto, PhD, CGH, President of the Republic of Kenya, and Commander-in-Chief of the Kenya Defence Forces on nomination for appointment of Mr. Andrew Mukite Musangi to the position of Chairperson of the Board of Directors of the Central Bank of Kenya. The message was transmitted to the Senate via the letter reference OP/CAB.26/4A Volume 2/38 dated 3rd August 2023 by the Chief of Staff and Head of Public Service, Mr. Felix K. Kosgei. While the Senate was on recess and transmitted to honorable senators pursuant to Standing Order 47-2 of the Senate. I shall now report the message to the Senate. You are most graciously notified that His Excellency Honorable William Samoei Ruto, PhD, CGH, President and Commander-in-Chief of the Kenya Defence Forces, has, on the recommendation of the Public Service Commission, nominated a candidate for appointment as the Chairperson of the Board of Directors of the Central Bank of Kenya. It is noted that Section 11.2a of the Central Bank of Kenya Act, Cap 491 of the laws of Kenya, sets out the process of appointment of the Chairperson of the Central Bank of Kenya. And it reads thus: the Chairperson shall be appointed by the President through a transparent and competitive process and with the approval of Parliament, and shall hold office for a term of 4 years, but shall be eligible for reappointment for one further term. In that regard, and in accordance with the procedure set out in Section 3 and 5 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act number 33 of 2011, as read together with Sections 11.2 and 11.2a of the Central Bank of Kenya Act, we submit to both Houses of Parliament the presidential nomination of Mr. Andrew Mukite Musangi for appointment as the Chairperson of the Central Bank of Kenya. To aid Parliament in its consideration and approval processes, we have the pleasure to forward herewith the Certificate of Presidential Nomination, number 15 of 2023, together with the nominees' curriculum vitae and testimonials, and the report of the Public Service Commission on the recruitment of the nominee. Honorable Senators, Section 3 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act states that an appointment under the Constitution or any other law for which the approval of Parliament is required shall not be made unless the appointment is approved or deemed to have been approved by Parliament in accordance with this Act. Standing Order number 47.1 of the Senate Standing Orders provides that upon receipt of a notification of nomination for appointment to a public office required to be approved by the Senate under the Constitution or any other legislation, the nomination shall stand committed to the relevant standing committee for consideration. Honorable Senators, as we agreed and executed during previous approvals for nominations such as the person of the Governor of Central Bank of Kenya, the message from His Excellency the President, together with the curriculum vitae of the nominee, stands committed to the relevant committee, in this case, the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget, for approval hearing. The committee will hold the approval hearing jointly with the Departmental Committee on Finance, Planning and Trade of the National Assembly in accordance with the provision of Central Bank of Kenya Act and the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act and the Standing Orders of the Houses of Parliament. Section 8 of the same Act provides as follows: unless otherwise provided in any law, a committee shall consider a nomination and table its report in the relevant House for debate and decision within 14 days from the date of which the notification of nomination was given in accordance with Section 5. At the conclusion of an approval hearing, the committee shall prepare its report to the suitability of the candidate to be appointed to the office to which the candidate has been nominated, and shall include in the report such recommendations as the committee may consider necessary. In this regard, therefore, the period on the matter that is now before Parliament starts running upon the Speakers of the Houses of Parliament committing the name of the nominee to the relevant committees in the Senate and in the National Assembly. Standing Order 230, joint sittings of corresponding committees of the Senate and National Assembly shall apply during the approval hearing. I urge the committees to expeditiously consider this matter and to table a report thereon within the stipulated timelines. I thank you. Honorable Senators, you may walk in, please. Kindly have your seats, Honorable Senators, so we proceed. I have two more messages to pass. Honorable Senators, I wish to report to the Senate that pursuant to Standing Order 46.3 and 5, I received the following message while the Senate was on recess from the Speaker of the National Assembly regarding the passage of the Climate Change Amendment Bill, National Bills number 42 of 2023. The message, which is dated Thursday, 24th August 2023, was received on Friday, 25th August 2023 in the office of the Clerk of the Senate. Pursuant to the said standing order, I now report the message. Pursuant to the provision of Standing Order 41.1 and 142 of the National Assembly Standing Orders, I hereby convey the following message from the National Assembly. Whereas the Climate Change Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 42 of 2023 was published via Kenya Gazette Supplement number 127 of July 19, 2023 as a bill seeking to amend the Climate Change Act 2016 to provide for the regulation of carbon markets in order to enhance response to climate change and provide mechanisms and measures to achieve low carbon climate resilient development. And whereas the Climate Change Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 42 of 2023 was passed by the National Assembly on Wednesday, 23rd August 2023 with amendments and in the form attached herewith. Now, therefore, in accordance with the provisions of Article 110 of the Constitution and Standing Orders 41.1 and 142 of the National Assembly Standing Orders, I hereby convey the said decision of the National Assembly to the Senate. Honorable Senators, pursuant to the Standing Order 163, a bill originating the National Assembly is required to be proceeded with in the manner as a bill introduced in the Senate by way of first reading. In accordance with Standing Order 144, I now direct at the appropriate time during this sitting, the said bill be read first time. I thank you. Honorable Senators, I also have another message that I wish to pass to you. I wish to report to the Senate that pursuant to Standing Order 46.3 and 5, I received a message from the Speaker of the National Assembly while the Senate was on recess regarding the establishment of the National Dialogue Committee to facilitate dialogue and consensus building and to recommend appropriate constitutional, legal and policy reforms on issues of concern to the people of Kenya. Pursuant to this said standing order, I now report the message as follows. Pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 41.1 of the National Assembly Standing Orders, I hereby convey the following message from the National Assembly. Whereas on Tuesday, 15th August 2023, the leader of Majority Party and the leader of the Minority Party jointly co-sponsored a motion on the establishment of a National Dialogue Committee comprising of members and a technical team drawn from both the Kenya Kwanza Alliance, here known as Kenya Kwanza, a coalition constituting the majority part of the Parliament of the Republic of Kenya, and Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party, herein Azimio, a coalition forming the minority party of the Parliament of the Republic of Kenya. And whereas the mandate of the National Dialogue Committee shall facilitate dialogue and consensus building and recommend appropriate constitutional, legal, or policy reforms on issues of concern to the people of Kenya, to be framed by the committee in line with the Constitution and the laws of the Republic of Kenya and respecting the functional and institutional integrity of state organs. Further, whereas on Wednesday, 16th August 2023, the National Assembly considered and passed the said resolution on the establishment of the National Dialogue Committee in the form attached hereto. Now, therefore, in accordance with the provisions of Standing Order 41.1 of the National Assembly Standing Orders, I hereby convey the said decision of the National Assembly to the Senate for consideration. Now, honorable senators, appreciating the importance of this matter, I directed that a notice of motion and motion to be scheduled in the order paper for this special sitting for consideration and adoption. I thank you. Finally, I would like to acknowledge the presence in the Speaker's Gallery this morning a visiting delegation of Sergeant-at-Arms from Turkana County Assembly who are in the Senate for a benchmarking visit. Honorable Senators, I request the delegation to stand so that they may be acknowledged according to the Senate tradition. The delegation comprises of the following officers: Mr. James Sirite, Ms. Esther Akisi, Mr. Nicholas Ekai, Mr. Justus Ajore, Mr. Matthew Loperon, Mr. Leonard Lokomoro, Mr. Charles Lomokol, Mr. John Napas, Mr. Nicholas Nakapon, Mr. Wilson Lokeris, Mr. Paul Ekipor, Mr. Dalmas Lochodo, Ms. Beatrice Aule, Mr. Andrew Abong, Ms. Celestine Akal, Ms. Sarah Akal, Ms. Esther Akal, Ms. Jen Nyanga, and Ms. Lucy Loyele. Honorable Senators, on behalf of the Senate, on my own behalf, I extend a warm welcome and wish them a fruitful visit. I will allow the Senator for Turkana, the Honorable Lomenen, under 1 minute to welcome the delegation from Turkana County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this golden opportunity. I take this opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to welcome Sergeant-at-Arms from the county of Turkana. I don't call them Sergeant-at-Arms, Mr. Speaker, for now. I call them my employers. I am here because of their efforts, and I want to congratulate them for visiting the Senate to learn and replicate best practices from this Senate. Mr. Speaker, I assure them this is a wonderful house, and we have great Sergeant-at-Arms who will train them and learn more from them. Mr. Speaker, and thank you so much, and I thank them for traveling so far, the farthest corner of this nation, and when they go back, I thank God, and I will provide. I pray God to provide them with journey mercies. And after this, Mr. Speaker, because you have given me 1 hour and 1 minute, I will see them there after. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Next order, clerk.
Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers. Order number 6, notices of motion.
The Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion at the establishment of the National Dialogue Committee. Aware that Article 1.1 of the Constitution provides that all sovereign power belongs to the people of Kenya and shall be exercised only in accordance with the Constitution. Further aware that Article 1.2 of the Constitution provides that the people of Kenya may exercise their sovereign powers either directly or through their democratically elected representatives. Conscious that Article 10 of the Constitution espouses the national values and principles of governance, which include the rule of law, democracy, and participation of the people. Further conscious that Article 94 of the Constitution provides that Parliament manifests the diversity of the nation, representing the will of the people and exercises their sovereignty. Recognizing that there is need to embrace consultation, dialogue, and consensus building as a way of resolving issues of concern to the people of Kenya, cognizant that despite the constitutional and legal reforms on the electoral process and the electoral laws, after every election cycle, there has been mistrust of electoral outcomes, leaving the country divided. Further cognizant that efforts to enhance constitutionalism, the rule of law, and the respect of human rights needs to be promoted, aware that there have been previous calls and attempts at building consensus on issues of concern to the people of Kenya through bipartisan engagement in Parliament, and appreciating the need to establish an inclusive forum for dialogue, the consultation and consensus building in seeking to promote peace, stability and prosperity of the country, acknowledging that the majority party in Parliament and the minority party in Parliament have agreed to embrace dialogue through the establishment of the National Dialogue Committee to recommend a way forward on issues of concern to the people of Kenya. Now, therefore, Mr. Speaker, the Houses of Parliament resolves as follows. 1, that the two Houses of Parliament establish the National Dialogue Committee consisting of 10 members to represent the Kenya Kwanza Alliance, a coalition constituting the majority party of the Parliament of the Republic of Kenya, and Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party, here referred to as Azimio, as a coalition forming the minority party of the Parliament of the Republic of Kenya. 2, that each coalition shall appoint 5 members to the National Dialogue Committee. 3, that the membership of the National Dialogue Committee shall be drawn from Parliament, shall be drawn from Parliament and outside of Parliament. 4, that the National Dialogue Committee shall comprise the following members to represent the Kenya Kwanza. 1, the Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah, leader of delegation. 2, Governor Cecily Mbarire, the deputy leader of delegation. Yours truly, Senator Hassan Omar Hassan, and last but not least, Honorable Catherine Wambilianga. 5, that the National Dialogue Committee shall comprise the following members to represent the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition. His Excellency Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka as a delegation leader. 2, the Honorable Opiyo Wandayi as a deputy delegation leader. 3, the Honorable Amina Mnyanzi. 4, the Honorable Eugene Wamalwa. 5, the Honorable Senator Okongo Omogeni. 6, that the mandate of the National Dialogue Committee shall be to facilitate dialogue and consensus building and recommend appropriate constitutional, legal and policy reforms on issues of concern to the people of Kenya to be framed. Constitutional, legal and policy reforms on issues of concern to the people of Kenya to be framed by the National Dialogue Committee in line with the Constitution and the laws of the Republic of Kenya, and respecting the functional institutional integrity of state organs. 7, the Houses of Parliament notes that the technical committees representing the Kenya Kwanza and Azimio shall support the National Dialogue Committee. 8, that the technical team representing the Kenya Kwanza shall comprise the following persons. 1, Dr. Muthomi Thiankolu. 2, Dr. Linda Musumba. 3, Dr. Duncan Ojwang. 4, Nick Biketi. 9, that the technical team representing Azimio shall comprise the following persons. 1, the Honorable Jeremiah Kioni. 2, Professor Adam Zolo. 3, Abubakar Zain Abubakar. And 4, Lynn Ngugi. 10, that further, the National Dialogue Committee shall be assisted by 2 officers designated as Communication Secretariat, one of whom shall be appointed by the leader of majority party and the other by the leader of the minority party. 11, the Houses of Parliament further resolves that the National Dialogue Committee shall formulate and adopt a framework agreement to guide the bipartisan talks. 12, that the National Dialogue Committee shall report to the leadership of Kenya Kwanza and Azimio coalitions within 60 days, and after that submit its report to Parliament. 13, that in execution of its mandate, the National Dialogue Committee may invite, engage with and consider submissions from stakeholders, collate views from the public, and engage experts, professionals, and other technical resource persons as necessary. 14, that the National Dialogue Committee shall determine its own rules of procedure. 15, that the speakers and clerks of both Houses of Parliament shall provide Secretariat and any other necessary support to facilitate the work of the National Dialogue Committee. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Next order, Clerk.
Order number 7, questions and statements.
Honorable Senators, kindly take your seats. I've got a communication to make. Before we proceed to the next order, allow me to make the following communication. I would like to acknowledge the presence in the public gallery this morning, a visiting delegation from St. Bridget Academy, Elgeyo Marakwet County. The delegation consists of 56 pupils and 10 teachers. On behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf, I welcome the delegation and wish them a fruitful visit. I will allow Senator Kisang under 1 minute to say a word of welcome.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, on behalf of Senate, I wish to take this opportunity to welcome St. Bridget's Academy from KS South, Elgeyo Marakwet County, to the Senate. This is one of our schools that does very well. Last year, the mean grade at KCB was 392. So I want to say welcome to Senate. Congratulations. Enjoy yourself while you are here. You listen to what we are discussing. I believe some of you in the future will be in this house, others in National Assembly, others becoming governors and even president. Thank you. Karibu to Senate. I'll see you shortly outside there when you're out.
Next order, Clerk.
Order number 8, the Climate Change Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bills number 42 of 2023, first reading. A bill for an act of parliament to amend the Climate Change Act 2016 and for connected purposes.
Next order. Now, Honorable Senators, pursuant to Standing Order 45, to allow me to rearrange the sequence of today's order paper, we will proceed with order number number 11. Thereafter, we will come back to those two orders, that is number 9 and 10. Clerk, proceed to call that order, please.
Order number 11, motion, establishment of the National Dialogue Committee.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move the following motion. The establishment of the National Dialogue Committee. Mr. Speaker, aware that Article 1 of the Constitution of Kenya provides that all sovereign powers belong to the people of Kenya and shall be exercised only in accordance with the Constitution. further aware that Article 1(2) of the Constitution provides that the people of Kenya may exercise their sovereign power either directly or through their democratically elected representatives. Conscious that Article 10 of the Constitution espouses the national values and principles of governance, which include the rule of law, democracy, and participation of the people. Further conscious that Article 94 of the Constitution provides that Parliament manifests the diversity of the nation, represents the will of the people, and exercises their sovereignty. Recognizing that there is need to embrace consultation, dialogue, and consensus building as a way of resolving issues of concern to the people of Kenya. Cognizant that despite the constitutional and legal reforms on the electoral process and the electoral laws after every election cycle, there has been mistrust of electoral outcomes, leaving the country divided. Further cognizant that efforts to enhance constitutionalism, the rule of law, and respect for human rights need to be promoted. Aware that there have been previous calls and attempts to build consensus on issues of concern to the people of Kenya through bipartisan engagements in Parliament, appreciating the need to establish an inclusive forum for dialogue, consultation, and consensus building in seeking to promote peace, stability, and prosperity of the country, acknowledging that the majority party in Parliament and the minority party in Parliament have agreed to embrace dialogue through the establishment of a national dialogue committee to recommend a way forward on issues of concern to the people of Kenya. Now, therefore, the Houses of Parliament resolved as follows. 1, that the two Houses of Parliament establish a national dialogue committee consisting of 10 members to represent Kenya Kwanza Alliance, referred to as Kenya Kwanza, a coalition constituting the majority party of the Parliament of the Republic of Kenya and Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party, a coalition forming the minority party of the Parliament of the Republic of Kenya. 2, that each coalition shall appoint 5 members to the National Dialogue Committee. 3, that the membership of the National Dialogue Committee shall be drawn from Parliament and outside of Parliament. 4, that the National Dialogue Committee shall comprise the following members to represent Kenya Kwanza. 1, the Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah. 2, Governor Cecily Mbarire as a Deputy Delegation Leader. 3, Senator Aaron Cheruiyot. 4, Senator Hassan Omar Hassan. 5, the Honorable Catherine Wambilianga. That the National Dialogue Committee shall comprise the following members to represent Azimio. 1, His Excellency Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka as a delegation leader. 2, Honorable Opiyo Wandayi as a deputy delegation leader. 3, the Honorable Amina Mnyazi. 4, Honorable Eugene Wamalwa. 5, the Honorable Senator Okongo Mogeni. 6, that the mandate of the National Dialogue Committee shall be to facilitate dialogue and consensus building and recommend appropriate constitutional, legal, and policy reforms on issues of concern to the people of Kenya to be framed by the National Dialogue Committee in line with the Constitution and the laws of the Republic of Kenya and respecting the functional and institutional integrity of state organs. The Houses of Parliament notes 7, that the technical teams representing Kenya Kwanza and Azimio shall support the National Dialogue Committee. 8, that the technical team representing Kenya Kwanza shall comprise the following persons. 1, Dr. Muthomi Thiankolu. 2, Dr. Linda Musumba. 3, Dr. Duncan Ojwang. 4, Nick Biketi. 9, that the technical committee representing Azimio shall comprise the following persons. 1, the Honorable Jeremiah Kioni. 2, Professor Adam Zolo. 3, Abubakar Zain Abubakar. And 4, Lynn Ngugi. 10, that further, the National Dialogue Committee shall be assisted by 2 officers designated as communication secretariats, one of whom shall be appointed by the leader of majority and the other by the leader of the minority party. 11, that the National Dialogue Committee shall formulate and adopt a framework agreement to guide the bipartisan talks. 12, the National Dialogue Committee shall report to the leadership of the Kenya Kwanza and Azimio coalition within 60 days, and after that submit its report to Parliament. 13, that in execution of its mandate, the National Dialogue Committee may invite and engage with and consider submissions from stakeholders collate views from the public, and engage experts, professionals, and other technical resource persons as necessary. 14, that the National Dialogue Committee shall determine its own rules of procedure. 15, that the speakers and the clerks of both houses of parliament shall provide the secretariat and any other necessary support to facilitate the work of the National Dialogue Committee. Mr. Speaker, sir, as you might be aware, our colleagues in the National Assembly passed this motion last week. As a House, Mr. Speaker, we ought to have passed it immediately soon after so that we can begin our operations at the National Dialogue Committee. But we are all aware, Mr. Speaker, that as a House we were on recess, but we felt that given the urgency and the importance of this committee, the sacred nature of the assignment that is before them, it will be unfair to us as a House, Mr. Speaker, if we carried on with our recess and wait until mid of September to come and pass this motion. Then we will continue to carry on the long, wrongly held belief, Mr. Speaker, that Senate is a second thought. The Senate of the Republic of Kenya, Mr. Speaker, is not a second thought. The people of Kenya bequeathed unto themselves this House and believe that it carries equal, if not even far more important powers, Mr. Speaker, than that of the National Assembly, especially on matters that are of great national importance, such as the one that is before us. It is in light of this, Mr. Speaker, that I sought the concurrence of our colleagues, including the leadership of the minority side, and we signed on to have this special sitting and consider this particular matter alongside other urgent business that is before us today, Mr. Speaker. But of most importance, Mr. Speaker, is that we get to sit down and seek the endorsement of our colleagues from Parliament. Mr. Speaker, you have heard me read from Article 1.2 of our Constitution, Mr. Speaker, that Parliament represents the diversity of our people. That when we gather here, Mr. Speaker, it is a gathering of all the 45 million Kenyans plus, Mr. Speaker. That because it was not possible to have all of us as the people of Kenya gather in one place at one particular time and location, therefore Kenyans elect their representatives. And on many occasions, they speak either directly as a people or indirectly through their representatives, through the donated power that these members in this House carry. Mr. Speaker, we are seeking the blessings of the people of Kenya to sit at a table and reason together, Mr. Speaker. This is in follow, Mr. Speaker, for those of us that profess a Christian faith. We are urged many times in the Bible that even our good Lord reminds us that when there are challenges, it's good to come, sit down, and reason together. It's on that basis, Mr. Speaker, that we have had this opportunity to sit down and listen to one another. It doesn't mean, Mr. Speaker, that for all the things that are on the table, we shall eventually agree. But at least there's nothing better, Mr. Speaker, than giving an ear to the person that holds a contrary view to whatever positions that you hold, Mr. Speaker. That is how great democracies are built, Mr. Speaker, by learning the art and the discipline of listening to one another, even when you don't agree, Mr. Speaker. Because, Mr. Speaker, the nations that have gone to war is because people stopped talking to one another and they felt that the only important noise is the sound of guns and bombs, Mr. Speaker, which is not the route that we want to take as a country, Mr. Speaker, because we know for 60 good years, 60 plus, that Kenya has existed as a republic. It is not because those who are in leadership at that particular time did not face challenges, Mr. Speaker. They had challenges and they found ways of surmounting those particular challenges. They found ways of coming together and reasoning. Mr. Speaker, in fact, I may be quite young, and in fact, Mr. Speaker, the truth of the matter is that I never saw the first president of this republic, President Jomo Kenyatta. But at least as a student of primary and partly in high school before he retired, I saw through the leadership of President Moi, followed by President Mwai Kibaki. At least then I had become an adult. And President Uhuru, who was just retired, and we had the opportunity to serve together in one political party, Mr. Speaker. I can recall, Mr. Speaker, that in each of all those presidencies, there were moments when they sat back and reflected with colleagues from across the floor, Mr. Speaker. And in fact, back then it was easy, Mr. Speaker, because presidents were members of parliament, and therefore they would dialogue easily, sometimes either through motions such as this or even presently on the floor of the House of Parliament, Mr. Speaker, for which quite a number of us in this House, including yourself, Mr. Speaker, had the opportunity to serve in that particular House, Mr. Speaker. Therefore, I want to urge my colleagues respectfully that let us support this motion agree with the proposal to send our colleagues to go and listen to each other, give them your blessings, share with them whatever thoughts. We know you have different opinion on many of these issues. Mr. Speaker, in fact, I will report to the House that in the last meeting that we had last week, Mr. Speaker, we have already framed the issues and reduced onto the agenda of what our colleagues from the minority side considered that are issues that are worth conversing about, and those that we felt, Mr. Speaker, needs to be conversed about. Of which tomorrow, when we meet, Mr. Speaker, at the Bomas of Kenya, Mr. Speaker, we shall be considering. Some are of a constitutional nature, some are legislative, some are policy. Mr. Speaker, we shall sit down and agree. Where, for one reason or the other, we are not able to agree, we will come back and report to this House, Mr. Speaker, where our colleagues will have the opportunity to speak and share of whatever thoughts or whatever ways they feel many of those issues need to be resolved, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I believe we are doing this in the best interest of the country. I know people have varied opinion about what they imagine, what they think about this particular issue. I want to give assurance to our colleagues in the House, Mr. Speaker, because I know that initially, when the agenda was listed, the issue, one particular issue that is quite key to members of this House, which is entrenchment of various funds, Mr. Speaker, into the Constitution. The Senate Oversight Fund didn't feature. With me, Mr. Speaker, I have an advanced copy of the agenda for which we shall agree on tomorrow, Mr. Speaker. And under that particular agenda item of entrenching funds into the Constitution, listed as number 1 is the Senate Oversight Fund, the National Government Constituency Development Fund, National Government Affirmative Action Fund, alongside, Mr. Speaker, other outstanding constitutional matters, issues to do with electoral justice and related matters, the restructuring of IBC. Mr. Speaker, you know we passed a law here, I think in the beginning, towards the end of the second session, Mr. Speaker. Many people held different views about it. We know that there is an already established election committee that is continuing with its work, Mr. Speaker, but nothing stops us. That is a matter that is strongly under the purview of the members of parliament, who include the senators that are here, to come back to the House and say, wait a minute, this is a proposal that we gave of the 7 members of a selection panel, but perhaps we hold a different view on how it needs to be done, Mr. Speaker. That powers rest with this particular House, Mr. Speaker. Of course, and so many other issues that have been listed. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I have to be fair to my colleagues, because I know, Mr. Speaker, that we gazetted only the morning session to transact this particular business, and we still have other business that is before us, Mr. Speaker. I don't intend to be longer than that, Mr. Speaker. I want to avail the opportunity so that colleague senators can also have the chance to comment on this particular matter, and we conclude on it. Therefore, I urge all of us in the House, the majority side, the minority side, to close ranks and give this team an opportunity to sit down and reflect on issues that they consider to be important to the people of Kenya. With those very many remarks, Mr. Speaker, I beg to move and request my counterpart, the leader of the minority side, Senator Stewart Mazayo, to second this motion. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Asante, Bwana Spika. Bwana Spika,
Majority Leader Senator Kinyua, may the Minority Leader be hide in silence, please.
Bwana Spika, kwanza nataka kuunga mkono swada huu ulioletwa na kiongozi wa walio wengi. Bwana Spika, kitu cha kwanza ni kwamba katiba inatueleza kabisa ya kwamba mamlaka yote ya bunge, mamlaka yote katika taifa la Kenya yako chini ya mikono ya Wakenya. Kwa hiyo Wakenya wenyewe ndio wako na mamlaka, na sisi tuko hapa kama bunge kuweza kutekeleza yale yote ambao wale Wakenya wanahitaji yatekelezwe katika bunge letu la Senate. Bwana Spika, kuna mengi yamesemwa, lakini katika kile kipengele cha 94 cha katiba ya Kenya kinasema wazi kabisa ya kwamba wale watakokuwa wakiwakilisha ama Wakenya wote wanawakilishwa katika bunge lao na watu ambao wamewachagua. Sisi tukiwa hapa tuna majukumu tofauti tofauti, na majukumu yetu ya kwanza ni kuona ya kwamba, Bwana Spika, ningependa kusikizwa, lakini kuna sauti nyingi zinatoka upande mwingine.
Honorable Senators, kindly let's hear the minority leader in silence, please.
Bwana Spika, kitu cha kwanza tunajua kuna mazungumzo yanaendelea. Bwana Spika, mazungumzo haya lazima yapitishwe ndani ya bunge hili letu. Bwana Spika, ni muhimu kuona ya kwamba mazungumzo haya yameweza kufaulu ili kuona ya kwamba amani imepatikana katika Kenya. Bwana Spika, katika pande zote mbili, upande wa walio wengi na upande wa walio wachache, Bwana Spika, tunajua ya kwamba wananchi waliweza kuchaguliwa kutoka nje kuweza kusaidia ile timu ambayo iko ndani ya bunge, na timu yetu sisi ambao tuliweza kuichagua hapa, timu ambayo imeongozwa na wabunge wetu kutoka pande zote mbili. Bwana Spika, ni kwamba hawa wabunge wako na ujuzi, wako na taaluma ya hali ya juu ya kwamba wanaweza kuendesha mazungumzo haya. Bwana Spika, tukijua ya kwamba vile vile kunao watu ambao wanasaidia hawa ambao wanaitwa kama technical experts. Tunajua hao wako na taaluma ya hali ya juu ya kwamba wanaweza kusaidia. Kitu tunachohitaji katika Kenya, Bwana Spika, ni amani. Hakuna nchi inaweza kufaulu katika utendakazi wake wote, katika kuona ya kwamba imeweza kuenda mbele kimaendeleo na kusikizana na watu wakaishi pamoja kama Wakenya, kama ikiwa hakutakuwa na masikizano. Mazungumzo haya ambayo katika hii mswada huu ambao tumeleta, ni kwamba tunasema ya kwamba mazungumzo haya yaweze kufanywa kwa njia ambayo yataweza kufaulu, na tuko na imani ya kwamba, Bwana Spika, mazungumzo haya kulingana na hawa watu ambao wamechaguliwa watakuwa na uwezo wa kuweza kufaulu na kuweza kujadiliana na kukubaliana na yale ambayo yanaweza kuleta amani ndani ya Kenya. Bwana Spika, tunajua ya kwamba katika mazungumzo kule nyumbani sisi tunasema majembe mawili ama matatu yakiketi ndani ya gunia lazima yagongane. Tunajua katika mazungumzo yote sio kwamba wanaweza kukubaliana katika kila kitu. Bwana Spika, tunaona ya kwamba mazungumzo haya ni ya muhimu sana, na sio lazima ya kwamba watu wakubaliane kwa kila kitu, lakini ikiwa watakubaliana kwa mambo mengi zaidi na amani iweze kupatikana na Wakenya waweze kuishi kwa hali ya kwamba watapendana, watajuana ya kwamba sisi sote ni Wakenya na Kenya yote lazima tuishikilie sote tukiwa pamoja, itakuwa jambo la muhimu. Bwana Spika, nia yetu ni kusema ya kwamba mazungumzo haya yaweze kufaulu. Timu hizi ambazo tumeziweka hapa mbele, na tukijua kwamba tuko na imani hata katika kisomo chetu cha Biblia kinatuambia ya kwamba panapokuja watu wawili watatu wakija pamoja, wakiweza kupata nafasi ya kuwa na mazungumzo, ni lazima patatokea amani. Kwa hiyo sisi tuko na imani ya kwamba katika mazungumzo haya wale tuliowachagua, wale vinara wote upande huu na upande huu waliochaguliwa, kwa walio wengi wakiwa wanaongozwa na Ishungwa na kwa walio wachache ikiwa wanaongozwa na kiongozi Mheshimiwa Kalonzo Musyoka, tuko na imani ya kwamba, Bwana Spika, tunatarajia kwamba mazungumzo haya yataweza kuleta matunda na hatimaye Kenya itaweza kuendelea mbele na ipate faida kubwa sana. Bwana Spika, nikisema hivyo na kwamba naunga mkono swada huu ili uweze kufaulu. Asante sana Bwana Spika.
Yes, Senator Lelegwe, what is your point of order? I can see you, President. So, Honourable Senators, I now proceed to propose the question. That are aware that Article 1.1 of the Constitution provides that all sovereign power belongs to the people of Kenya and shall be exercised only in accordance with the Constitution. Further aware that Article 1.2 of the Constitution provides that the people of Kenya may exercise their sovereign power either directly or through their democratically elected representatives. Conscious that Article 10 of the Constitution espouses the national values and principles of governance which include the rule of law, democracy and participation of the people. Further conscious that Article 94 of the Constitution provides the Parliament manifests the diversity of the nation, represent the will of the people and exercise their sovereignty. Recognizing that there is a need to embrace consultation, dialogue and consensus building as a way of resolving issues of concern to the people of Kenya. Cognizant that despite the constitutional and legal reforms on the electoral processes and the electoral laws after every election cycle, there has been mistrust of electoral outcomes, leaving the country divided. Further, cognizant that efforts to enhance constitutionalism, the rule of law and respect for human rights need to be promoted. Aware that there has been previous calls and attempts at building consensus on issues of concern to the people of Kenya through bipartisan engagements in Parliament, appreciating the need to establish an inclusive forum for dialogue, consultation and consensus building in seeking to promote the peace, stability and prosperity of the country, acknowledging that the majority party in Parliament and the minority party in Parliament have agreed to embrace dialogue through the establishment of a National Dialogue Committee to recommend a way forward on issues of concern to the people of Kenya. Now, therefore, the Houses of Parliament resolve as follows: that the two Houses of Parliament establish a National Dialogue Committee consisting of 10 members to represent the Kenya Kwanza Alliance, hereafter Kenya Kwanza, a coalition constituting the majority party of Parliament of Republic of Kenya, and Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition, hereafter Azimio, a coalition forming the minority party of Parliament of the Republic of Kenya. That each coalition shall appoint 5 members to the National Dialogue Committee. That the membership of the National Dialogue Committee shall be drawn from Parliament and outside Parliament. The National Dialogue Committee shall comprise the following members to represent Kenya Kwanza: the Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah, Delegation Leader, Governor Cicely Mbarire, Deputy Delegation Leader, Honorable Senator Aaron Chiriot, Honorable Hassan Omar, and Honorable Catherine Wabilianga. That the National Dialogue Committee shall comprise the following members to represent Azimio: His Excellency Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, Delegation Leader, Honorable Opiyo Wandayi, Deputy Delegation Leader, Honorable Amina Munyazi, Honorable Eugene Wamalwa, and Honorable Senator Okongo Mogeni. That the mandate of the National Dialogue Committee shall be to facilitate dialogue and consensus building and recommend appropriate constitutional, legal and policy reforms on issues of concern to the people of Kenya to be framed by the National Dialogue Committee in line with the Constitution and the laws of the Republic of Kenya and respecting the functional and institutional integrity of state organs. The Houses of Parliament notes that the technical teams representing Kenya Kwanza and Azimio shall support the National Dialogue Committee. That the technical team representing Kenya Kwanza shall comprise the following persons: Dr. Muthomi Ithiankolu, Dr. Linda Musumba, Dr. Duncan Ojwang, and Nikki Biketi. That the technical team representing Azimio shall comprise the following persons: the Honorable Jeremiah Kioni, Professor Adams Olo, Abakri Zen Abakri, and Lynn Ngugi. That further, the National Dialogue Committee shall be assisted by 2 officers designated as communications secretaries, one of whom shall be appointed by the leader of the majority party and the other by the leader of the minority party. The Houses of Parliament further resolve that the National Dialogue Committee shall formulate and adopt a framework agreement to guide the bipartisan talks. That the National Dialogue Committee shall report to the leadership of Kenya Kwanza and Azimio coalition within 60 days, and after that submit its report to Parliament. That in execution of its mandate, The National Dialogue Committee may invite, engage with, and consider submissions from stakeholders, collect views from the public, and engage experts, professionals, and other technical resource persons as necessary. That the National Dialogue Committee shall determine its own rules of procedure. That the speakers and clerks of both houses of Parliament shall provide secretariat and any other necessary support to facilitate the work of the National Dialogue Committee. I will therefore proceed to Lelegwe. What is your point of order, Senator Lelegwe?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 111.1 and 2 to move that debate on the motion on the establishment of the National Dialogue Committee be limited as follows. A, that each senator speaking be limited to not more than 3 minutes. B, that the debate on the motion be limited to a maximum of 60 minutes, after which the mover be called upon to reply. Thank you.
Now, Honorable Senator, pursuant to that motion, opinion say nay, so the ayes have it. 3 minutes to contribute, and we're going to take 1 hour to make our contributions to this motion. The Honorable Senator Maanzo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to contribute on this very important motion. Mr. Speaker, the Constitution expectation is that as soon as an election is conducted, then whoever takes the mandates to lead the country leads the country into prosperity, peace, and unity. It anticipates a situation whereby, Mr. Speaker, we work as a nation together for the success of the people of Kenya who own the sovereignty of Kenya. At all material times, the people who elect us are sovereign, and the new constitution anticipates the elected leaders as servants of the people. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I rise to support this initiative so that there may be dialogue. We are aware that after the 2010 constitution, we agreed then
Senator
that there was...
Wamatinga, Majority Leader, kindly let's give an opportunity to Senator Manzo to be heard while making his contribution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, what is expected is that there be dialogue so that we could fill the gaps. As you have seen from the proposals of the majority and the minority, there are gaps which were left out in the 2010 Constitution, and after 13 years, it is a time now, Mr. Speaker, for us to fill up these gaps so that we have a document which serves the people of Kenya, which unites the people of Kenya, and which sees the country go into prosperity. Mr. Speaker, I'm aware from the debates which has been in funerals, television shows, and among the public, some people feel that these bipartisan talks could be against their region or against their tribes or against themselves. Mr. Speaker, this is for the benefit of the country. It is not benefit of a region or a tribe. Mr. Speaker, we want to build a strong Kenya for all Kenyans, but not for one or two individuals. Mr. Speaker, I really like the way the majority side in the National Assembly has framed the issues. The matter went through the National Assembly. It is now before Senate. And again, Mr. Speaker, once we prepare this, we have to avoid the pitfalls, what we went through before when we tried to make or amend the Constitution through the executive, but not through a popular initiative. Mr. Speaker, eventually we must find a way of making this a popular initiative. A Senate will represent all the 47 counties of the Republic, and therefore we want to avoid what happened to BBI. Obviously, this is going the BBI way again, but we must make sure it is the people's-driven changes, but not executive or elected leaders only driven changes. Eventually, it must go back to the people, and eventually most of the issues framed, some can be amended by Parliament, and others can only come through a referendum. I thank you, Mr. Speaker. I support.
Senator Gloria Aroba.
Oh, thanks. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to support the motion, Mr. Speaker. I believe it is time that this country actually has a national dialogue. It is long overdue, that I agree, Mr. Speaker, and I think that incorporating even the civil society is it is something that was needed, Mr. Speaker. However, Mr. Speaker, I have noted that it is written that the National Dialogue Committee will be there to facilitate dialogue, to build consensus, and to recommend appropriate constitutional, legal, and policy reforms, Mr. Speaker. When you look at the job description that this committee has been given, it is squarely the exact same job description that we have for the National Cohesion and Integration Commission, Mr. Speaker. So the only thing that I want to point out, so that we are also not lying to Kenyans, is that we have legal frameworks to have these national dialogues. We have the National Cohesion and Integration Commission. In this House of the Senate, we have a committee on national cohesion and equal opportunity. In the National Assembly, we have the same thing. So I think also, as much as I am supporting this motion, I have to say that we are being unfair to the president, because the president has set out to put out austerity measures to ensure that we are not spending money that should not be spent, and yet we are here creating yet another entity. And we could have used the National Cohesion Commission. We could have used our joint committee between the National Assembly and the Senate to actually have the framework and discussion. And both those platforms are equally opportunities that we could have, made effective. So, Mr. Speaker, I have to say that as legislators, as much as I support this motion, we are being unfair to the taxpayers, because I'm sure this committee is going to draw some sort of allowance. I'm sure we are going to incur expenses on the same. And it is not fair to keep telling taxpayers, we are going to pay the commission, we are going to pay the committees, and now we are coming together to have a national dialogue committee on top of all that, the legal frameworks that we have. But I support, we need a national dialogue, so I support this motion. Thank you.
Senator Eddy.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. And at the very least, this National Dialogue Committee holds the promise of creating a It's management of Kenya. Okay, Mrs. I hope that Mrs. I hope, okay, this is better, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Senator Kinyua, Senator
Just
Joyce.
proceed to make your contribution. Your 3 minutes are almost up. Proceed.
Okay, Mr. Speaker, I'll start now and say that I was saying that at the very least, this particular National Dialogue Committee, Mr. Speaker, gives this country a promise of creating a very significant momentum in the aim of inclusively and transforming the socio-political and economic conflict that has engulfed this country since the post-election, and particularly at the beginning of this year. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, it would be extremely remiss of me to start commenting on this particular motion without sincerely thanking His Excellency President Ruto, together with the Right Honorable Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga, for the boldness they have exemplified to allow this country to have a dialogue and give dialogue a chance. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, dialogue in the context of the conflict that we have found ourselves in since the beginning of the year is the only useful way that we can be able to ensure that we not only achieve the idea of sustainable peace in this country, but also being able to make sure that as a country we can be able to mainstream some of the economic issues that we are facing. Indeed, I know that this has been an emotive issue, Mr. Speaker, in the past few months. In fact, there's a time in this particular house that it was very difficult to become a senator and at the same time be conscious about a number of decisions and talk about them more consciously without being in a constant state of rage. Just because some of these issues that are being laid down from both sides of the house have been very weighty issues, Mr. Speaker. I do know that the weight of those issues indeed go to touching the Constitution. And therefore, as a nation, Mr. Speaker, as we allow this team to go and sit down and talk, I would encourage this House, Mr. Speaker, to also keenly look at other mechanisms of being able to engage with the different parts of this conversation. Because, Mr. Speaker, if you look at some of the issues like what has been said from the Azimio side, Mr. Speaker, you look at issues around audit of elections, Mr. Speaker, these are contentious issue that is touching on the Constitution, Article 86 of the Constitution, and if you go further, there is Election Act 2011, Section 44 is entirely dedicated on the issue of auditing of the elections. IBC Act, Section 11, Mr. Speaker, is equally embedded on this particular issue of audit of election, Mr. Speaker. If you look at another issue that has been contentious, that from the team on the Azimio side, and I know that majority has said that they are trying to mainstream some of these issues, the issue of economic rights, Mr. Speaker. This is an entire issue that is dedicated in the Article 43 of the Constitution, Mr. Speaker. And if you further look at issues around democratization, Mr. Speaker, our entire Article 4 of the Constitution defines this country as a democracy, Mr. Speaker. So these are not just issues that need some institutional understanding, but indeed they are at the core of the issues of national dialogue. So we thank our leaders, both Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga and President Ruto for giving this country a chance to be able to sit and have a conversation with itself.
Your time is up. Your time is up. I'm sorry we had to switch off manually. Senator Kathuri.
Okay. Let me use this one. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this chance also to give my very brief comments on this motion on the establishment of the National Dialogue Committee. Mr. Speaker, on the onset, dialogue is a conversation between two or more people. That is according to the encyclopedia. Mr. Speaker, I didn't support this motion, but one thing that is really giving problems is how we came to the formulation of this committee, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, before this group was composed, so many Kenyans are now on the graves, dead. I don't know whether this committee or this dialogue will bring back these Kenyans who are already dead, because the process that the minority side used, the minority coalition, was to go to the streets, to demonstrate, to do very funny things so that they could push the president to accept this dialogue. Mr. Speaker, as we debate this motion, I'm at a great loss because Kenyans have lost property, Kenyans have lost lives, but I hope this thing will be the first and the last one. I was at the pains to hear my friend, my colleague from Migori, say that the elections were contentious. They were not contentious. If there was any contention, it was taken to the Supreme Court, and the court determined that the elections were free and fair, and President Ruto won squarely. So, Mr. Speaker, in Kenya we are used to these band politics of twisting the government when it is elected. And Mr. Speaker, I think this should be the first and the last thing to happen. Some of us actually have sacrificed a lot to be in this house today. I personally arrived in this country at 3 a.m. so that I can participate in this motion. But I wanted at least to come and hear my voice that they should not be the route to go as Kenya. I support the 10-member committee. I'm most happy that this report will be brought to this parliament, because I was afraid that there might be some handshakes in the corner of the streets after this dialogue. But I'm happy that this report will find its way here so that we can either agree with it or disagree. So, Mr. Speaker, thank you very much indeed, and I thank you for this opportunity.
Senator Enoch.
Can I use this? Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for this opportunity. I also want to join my colleagues in fully supporting the constitution of the National Dialogue Team. Speaker, I am happy that the National Dialogue Team is constituted along the lines of national values and principles of governance. And I pray that, Mr. Speaker, at the end of their term, then this team is going to come up with resolutions that bind us together as a nation. Mr. Speaker, people should not be afraid of talking. In fact, the minute you stop talking, then bad things begin to happen. There is nothing to fear with having a dialogue. And when there are disputes, whether those disputes arise from a contested election or they arise from issues of governance or cost of living, leaders have a duty of care to talk and find solutions to problems facing the people that they lead. Mr. Speaker, I personally take this initiative very, very seriously. As my friend, my neighbor, the Senator from Meru said, he left his county very early in the morning to participate in this. The Speaker, I should be somewhere in school in Nakuru, taking my son back to school. But I'm here because this is important. This is important for this country. This is important for national healing. The Speaker, as I conclude, I want to say that this team that is meeting to have this dialogue is building on a foundation that was laid by the first initial team of the bipartisan team that yours truly was a member of. And in this one, Mr. Speaker, I am very happy that we have laid a firm foundation on which we will heal this country and move forward together as a nation. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity, and I fully support this team.
Senator Murango.
Asante sana Mstahiki Spika kwa kunipa fursa hii niweze kuchangia. Kwanza naunga mkono mswada ambao uliletwa na kiongozi wa wengi ya kwamba wale walioteuliwa waweze kuketi na kutafuta jawabu katika mazungumzo. Lakini pia ningetaka kusema kwamba tusiwe watu wa kutafuta vita ndo tuanze kutafuta amani. Kwa sababu hili ni jambo ambalo lingemalizwa kitambo. Na ningeuliza watu wanapoenda kuongea, walioagiza hii maendeleo, walioomba kuwe na mazungumzo, tusinje tukasikia kwamba pia kuna matata mengi inatokea sehemu ile, kwa sababu Mswahili anasema mfungwa hachagui gereza. Na kwa sababu washachagua kwamba wanataka kuwa katika gereza ya mazungumzo, kusiwe na utata wote pale wanapozungumza. Halafu ningetaka pia niongeze niseme ya kwamba kama venye Mheshimiwa Senator Meru amesema, iwe ni jambo la mwisho, kwa sababu hakuna maana ya uchaguzi kama hakuna mshindi. Vile vile ni kama basi tukae zote tuteuliwe tuwe tuje hapa katika Seneti, kwa sababu tukiendelea hivyo hata mimi pia niliowashinda kule Kirinyaga atasema kuwe na mazungumzo, wale walishinda ungavana watakusema pia kuwe na mazungumzo. Kwa hivyo iwe ni mara ya mwisho kwamba tunafanya hili, na tukilifanya tumalize, kuwe na amani, na pia wanaoongoza wasije na kwa misingi mikali na misimamo mikali, waje na misimamo ambayo na kauli ambazo zitatolewa ni kwamba ni kwa ajili ya wananchi wa Kenya, wala sio kwa ajili ya uongozi. Asante sana Mstahiki Spika.
Senator Dulo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sorry, I thought it is me, Mr. Speaker.
Proceed, Senator Dulo. Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I am supporting this motion, hoping that what is happening in this country is going to be resolved. Majority of us have been long in this country and also in leadership position. And after every 5 years, the same issues come up. Unless otherwise, personally I feel, from what has happened before, Mr. Speaker, we are not getting to the bottom of the problem. Because if we go into election and somebody is defeated, I think they should accept defeat. And this shenanigans of high cost of living, IBC, we've been seeing this every year, year in and year out. What solutions are leaders bringing as far as cost of living is concerned? Mr. Speaker, solution to the underlying problem, because this is not one person issue. I know this is one person issue. And this is not the way that things should be resolved. If you have been defeated, you have been defeated. Go and wait for 5 years, and after that, go for another election and see whether you will go through. I hope for the last time, this matter will be resolved. But Kenyans are really suffering. There are some who have lost their lives. The high cost of living is actually going on, and solution is actually being made. So I hope this will be a solution, but at the bottom of my heart, there is no solution to this problem. And the same thing will be repeated next, even after 2027. And I hope I'll be alive to see that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Nyamu. Senator Karen Nyamu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to this motion. First of all, Mr. Speaker, I did not know that there are people out there whose work is solely to count how many times we speak in this Senate. But since I'm aware, I will make sure I keep them very busy. So, Mr. Speaker, the issue of having dialogue after every election cycle, just like my colleagues have said before me, is one that must be discouraged, because we put a lot of resources into the election process, and we have encouraged this kind of impunity every election cycle. There are individuals who know that they can twist the process to get into government in the back door. However, Mr. Speaker, because our head of government, who is the president, supports this dialogue, and because one of the agenda for Kenya Kwanza in this dialogue is creating an official opposition office, which I support fully, because we appreciate that Raila, who is the current person in question that we are discussing today, he got a considerable number of votes. And the issue of winner takes it all has been a thorn in the flesh in the Kenyan elections. So, in that matter, Mr. Speaker, I support...
What is the point of order?
Protect me, Mr. Speaker. Protect me, Mr. Speaker, from the minority leader.
Just take your seat, Senator Karen. What is the point of order, Senator Mazayo?
Bwana Spika, nafikiri ule mjadala ulioko hapa ni muhimu sana na ni wa kitaifa. Lakini ukisikiza matamshi aliyoongea dadangu Senator, kwa jina la heshima dadangu, na matamshi aliyosema ya kwamba hapa tunaongea juu ya baba Raila Amolo Odinga, bila alivyosema, je, ni sawa ama si sawa? Nataka kujua kutoka kwake, na kama si sawa anaweza kuondoa maneno hayo.
It's okay,
na kaomba msamaha.
Senator Karen, the motion before the floor is the National Dialogue Committee. It's got nothing to do with Honorable Raila Odinga. We are not here to discuss the personality of
Thank you, sir.
Honorable Raila Odinga.
Mr. Speaker, I'm guided.
Thank you.
As I was saying in conclusion, the issue of winner takes it all in our election has been a thorn in the flesh, and if this dialogue is going to address this issue once and for all, I support the creation of the official opposition so that we can keep so that we can keep the election loser, Mr. Speaker, so that we can keep the election loser legitimate and accountable and busy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Oburu.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, I stand to support this motion. And Mr. Speaker, I support it because talking, dialogue is always the way to go. And this is not only in Kenya, it is all over the world. And Mr. Speaker, those who are saying that there has been negotiations every election in Kenya, maybe were born yesterday. But I can tell them that since independence, which is more than 60 years, there have been always elections every 5 years, and I don't think there was a dialogue every 5 years. There was only dialogue when there was a problem. The dialogue only comes, Mr. Speaker, when there is a problem, and those who also don't know, it is through those dialogues that we have a new constitution. This constitution which you are saying you support came because of dialogue. And it is because of those negotiations and so on. Mr. Speaker, this new constitution, even some of the leadership of this country were opposing the new constitution. And they were opposing the new constitution, Mr. Speaker, because they said this constitution was good, but there were some provisions in the constitution
Senator
which
Gloria?
they didn't
Senator
like.
Oburu,
Mr. Speaker,
just yield. What is the point of order, Senator Gloria?
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
But you should have opposed
I think
Oroba,
just as Senator Nyamu has been.
You do not belittle the ones who are younger. Can you proceed to make
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm just saying that there were people who opposed it because there were some few things which needed to be corrected, and this national dialogue is giving them an opportunity to correct what they did not want in this constitution. Mr. Speaker, I don't see how that is relevant because Madam Oroba, Senator Oroba, opposed this dialogue. And she was saying, I support it, but everything she said was opposing it. When you want to oppose, just oppose. And when you want to support, just support. Yes, there's no shame in supporting or opposing. So Mr. Speaker, I don't want to continue much more. I support this dialogue.
Senator Mgatana.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you for giving me the opportunity to make a brief contribution on this matter. Mr. Speaker, those of us who are students of history will recall, Mr. Speaker, I want to be protected from Kenya.
Senator Kenya, kindly have your seat.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Proceed, Senator Mgatana.
Mr. Speaker, those of us who are students of history will remember that the 1861 elections in America were very controversial. Mr. Speaker, Abraham Lincoln was elected president with mainly the support of the North. The Southern states felt that they lost and they felt segregated. Mr. Speaker, before the president was sworn in, they went to hold a meeting in Montgomery, Alabama, where they swore a new president in 11 states. They formed the Confederacy. Mr. Speaker, that controversy around the election of the President of the United States at that time brought about a civil war that lasted for 4 years. Over 600 people, 1,000 people died. Mr. Speaker, we are happy that in Kenya, it hasn't gone that way, that people decided to speak before it deteriorated. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to stand here and tell people matters election are very critical for the stability of the nation. And we need to handle them with care. And the critical thing I want to quote here is what President Lincoln said. He said that we must agree that popular vote is not an absurdity. We must agree. And we must settle the question that a minority that loses an election cannot at will decide to break a government that is formed by the majority. So, Mr. Speaker, let us discuss, but let the principle prevail. If you lose an election, please go home. You have no right to break a government because you lost an election. What Madam Senator Dulo has said is what has happened many years ago, and people are trying to reinvent what has happened. Please don't bring chaos because you lost an election. And this is the whole thing about this dialogue, is about that election. It has happened in the US, and it's being repeated word for word, except we haven't gone to civil war. We are asking people to have good manners. When you go to an election, you lose an election, don't bring problems to the country. Go home.
Senator Kamau Githuku.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika. Nataka niweze kuunganika pamoja na wenzangu kusupport hoja hii ambayo imeletwa na kinara walio wengi katika bunge hili la Senate, na niseme ya kwamba Mheshimiwa Spika, sisi ambao tunaosoma Biblia inasema kwamba katika kitabu cha Amos 3:3 ya kwamba wawili wasipo kukubaliana hawawezi kutembea pamoja. Mheshimiwa Spika, nimesimama kuweza kuunga mkono hoja hii ya kuweza kuwa na mazungumzo ya kitaifa ambayo italete uwiano na kukomeza shida na matatizo ambayo imeweza kushuhudiwa katika Jamhuri yetu ya Kenya kwa muda wa siku ambazo zimeweza kutangulia makupita tangu tulipokuwa na uchaguzi wa mwaka 2022. Mheshimiwa Spika, tumeona vurugu zikishuhudia katika Jamhuri yetu ya Kenya. Tumeona umwagikaji wa damu. Tumeona pia vile vile uharibifu wa mali katika Jamhuri yetu ya Kenya. Mheshimiwa Spika, jambo hili ni jambo ambalo kama kiongozi lilaani kabisa, kwa sababu hili jambo limeweza kuleta hasara kubwa katika Jamhuri yetu ya Kenya, ikizingatiwa kwamba Mheshimiwa Spika, tulifanya kampeni na tukapatia Wakenya ahadi ambazo tutakazoweza kuzitimiza. Na Mheshimiwa Spika, ukiwa na mambo ambayo ni ya vurugu, umwagikaji wa damu na uharibifu wa mali, unakuta kwamba kiongozi ambaye aliyechaguliwa hawezi kuchukua fursa ya kuongoza nchi kwa njia inayostahili. Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi naunga jambo hili mkono kama ndilo jambo ambalo litakalolete uwiano, jambo ambalo litakalolete amani katika Jamhuri yetu ya Kenya, ili Wakenya waweze kufanyiwa kazi. Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi nimetoka katika kaunti ya Lamu ambayo saa hii imekumbwa na shida na matatizo mengi ya kiusalama. Na Mheshimiwa Spika, jambo hili ni jambo ambalo ningependa serikali iweze kuliangalia kwa kina. Ni kwa nini wananchi wangu wa kaunti ya Lamu wanauliwa kiholela? Ni kwa nini wananchi wangu wa Lamu wanachomewa manyumba kiholela? Ni kwa nini jamii fulani imekuwa targeted na watu ambao hawajulikani? Mheshimiwa Spika, hilo ni jambo ambalo linaleta huzuni katika nchi yetu ya Kenya na kaunti yangu ya Lamu. Mheshimiwa Spika, ningependa sana serikali iweze kuona kwamba tunapoingia katika mambo ya mazungumzo ya kutafuta amani katika Jamhuri yetu ya Kenya.
Senator Tabitha Keroche.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for giving me this opportunity, and I rise to support this motion. I need to take this opportunity and congratulate His Excellency Dr. William Ruto, our President, and the Right Honorable, the Opposition Leader, Raila Amolo Odinga, for agreeing to sit in this country to talk and unite and heal. I know our country is bleeding. We've gone through a 2-year COVID, very long electioneering period, and we need to recover. And what His Excellency William Ruto is doing is to lead this country to an economic transformation. You could see the minute we mentioned about the dialogue, the relief that everybody had in this country, the church and the business people. Because everybody knows if we unite and we talk and agree, happen again. To see our people on the streets doing the maandamano, destroying property. I know the people who did the constitution did it very well, but there is one point that they left. The opposition leader office needs to be in place and put very well black and white, so that everybody knows if he loses an election, he has an office that is going to be going and oversight the government that is for the day. So mine is just to say thank you and congratulate His Excellency and the team that has been elected to ensure that we have the white smoke immediately after we get the talk. I mean, we get that talk. It's not just a talk. We must get the white smoke that the country has agreed and the country is moving forward and waiting for another election in 2027 when we are recovering from the economic that the businesses have suffered and the people have suffered. So the team that has been given that mandate, the just to be given a mandate, is to ensure that when they get out of that room or that or house, there will be peace and peace and peace of this country. Thank you.
Senator Faki.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kunipa fursa hii kuchangia hii mswada wa mjadala wa kitaifa. Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi pia najiunga na wenzangu kuwapongeza viongozi wa nchi na kiongozi wa Azimio Mheshimiwa Baba Raila Amolo Odinga kwa kuweza kuwa na makubaliano kuhusiana na masuala haya. Mheshimiwa Spika, wakati ilipotangazwa kwamba kutakuwa na mjadala wa kitaifa, nchi ilipumua, biashara zikafunguka na amani ikarudi katika nchi yetu ya Kenya. Kwa Mheshimiwa Spika, ni masikitiko kwamba wenzetu hapa wanaweza kuzungumza kwamba ilikuwa haifai kwa viongozi hawa kuwa na mjadala. Mheshimiwa Spika, tukiangalia hata uhuru ambao ulipatikana katika nchi hii, baadhi ya ndugu zetu walikufa, lakini baada ya mazungumzo kukapatikana muafaka kule Lancaster na ikapatikana uhuru katika nchi yetu ya Kenya. Mheshimiwa Spika, viongozi wote ambao wameweza kutawala nchi hii wametawala kupitia masuala ya mjadala baina ya viongozi na wananchi katika nchi ya Kenya. Hakuna kiongozi ambaye alitangaza akaendesha nchi kwa njia ya kimla. Sababu ni wale ambao Waingereza wanasema ni madikteta ndio hawezi kukubali kuzungumza baina ya wananchi katika nchi zao. Lakini nchi yetu inaongozwa na demokrasia na katiba yetu pia tuliweza kuipata kupitia kwa mjadala katika Bomas. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, wa Kenya kuzungumza sio jambo ugeni. Jambo geni ni kwamba tuna katiba mpya na polisi bado wanaendelea kuua wananchi kiolela. Hiyo ndio hofu ambayo tuko nayo sisi. Na hofu hii Mheshimiwa Spika inaanza kutoka kwa kinara wa nchi. Tuliona jana katika vyombo vya habari kwamba anatishia kupeleka watu mbinguni. Hii si Yesu ya Masihi, si mtume. Sisi ni wananchi wa Kenya na sote ni binadamu. Na sote ni binadamu, na iwapo kuna mambo yoyote ambayo yanataka kuzungumzwa yazungumzwe katika mjadala.
What is your point of order, Senator Kenya?
Bwana Spika, ni vizuri sisi mjadala ulioko siku ya leo Bwana Spika umekuwa ukiwaambia wenzangu maseneta wajadili mambo ambayo yanahusu mjadala huu. Lakini kusema ya kwamba ati kiongozi anasema atapeleka watu binguni. Bwana Spika, binguni hakuna mtu anajua njia Bwana Spika. Huwezi ukapeleka mtu binguni. Bwana Spika, binguni hata Biblia inasema ya kwamba mtu anayejua ni Baba wa binguni peke yake. Hata Yesu ajua Bwana Spika.
You made your point, Senator Kenya. Senator Faki, kindly confine yourself.
Mheshimiwa Spika, sijatoka nje ya mada. Ni jambo ambalo liko hadhiri, kila mtu ameona.
Senator Faki, I have told you, I've directed you to confine yourself to the motion before.
Ndio nasema Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi niko ndani ya mjadala bado.
Desist from taking that line of argument.
Mjadala Mheshimiwa Spika, na nitaendelea kubaki katika mjadala. Mwisho nasema Mheshimiwa Spika kwamba hakuna soko lisilo na ndawazimu. Shasikia? Maendeleo, majadiliano yataendelea, na wale ambao wanasema kwamba hakuna mwisho wataona kwamba yamekuwa. Haiwi mwisho huo Mheshimiwa Spika, na mwisho ni kwamba amani haiji mpaka nchi ya upanga saa nyingine. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Spika, tunasema tunaunga mkono mjadala huu na tuko tayari kufanya lolote ambalo linatakana kama viongozi katika bunge hili kuhakikisha kwamba
Thank you. I didn't know that some of us fear going to heaven. Senator Nduati.
Mr. Speaker, sir, yes, you should take judicial notice of the fact that there are many people who are afraid of facing their maker because of the things they've been doing down here. Mr. Speaker, sir, thank you for the opportunity to contribute to this important motion, and I do support the formation of the bipartisan committee that is going to commence a national conversation and a dialogue to discuss the issues, some of the issues that one side of the divide has felt that is ailing this nation. Mr. Speaker, disputes must have a progressive resolution. And Mr. Speaker, I hesitate to use a Kikuyu saying that insinuate that a case involving people who are not very wise, or what others would call fools, is never resolved easily. Because once a solution is arrived at, then one party keeps returning that same case for resolution of a dispute that has already been resolved. Mr. Speaker, it is important for this committee to note and to take judicial notice of the fact that certain issues have been settled, and ever since the 2022 general election, it's been 1 year that all the leaders who are voted in have been serving Kenyans from the date their term commenced, after they were validly elected in an electoral process that was spearheaded by the IEBC, Mr. Speaker, sir. And the IEBC conducted elections for all the parties that were involved, Mr. Speaker, sir, and senators who are seated in this House today and in National Assembly and in county assemblies, Mr. Speaker, sir, were brought in using that electoral process. So I would urge this committee that has been brought forth, Mr. Speaker, sir, to ensure that issues that have been constitutionally closed by Supreme Court, by processes that cannot be reopened, are not brought back to the table for dispute resolutions, because they will never be resolved. They have already been dealt with. The other issue, Mr. Speaker, is the cost of this process. If a party feels aggrieved and they want to discuss issues that are ailing the nation, it should be at their own cost. Could it be, Mr. Speaker, sir, that both parts of the divide will take care of the cost of this process so that the Kenyans are not further burdened by another cost for talks that may be endless, Mr. Speaker, sir? And while I support the process of talks, Mr. Speaker, sir, it is in my very honest view, Mr. Speaker, sir, that these talks could have been dealt away with.
Senator Mwaruma.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa hii fursa ulionipa kuchangia huu mswada wa kamati ya uwiano katika Jamhuri yetu ya Kenya. Naunga mkono majina yote yaliyotolewa, upande wa walio wengi na upande wa walio wachache. Mheshimiwa Spika, hii kamati ni ya mazungumzo, ni ya kuleta uwiano na kuleta amani nchini Kenya. Mheshimiwa Spika, swala la amani ni swala muhimu sana, lakini katika maana ya amani hakuwezi kuwa na amani, ama kuwa na amani si ukosefu wa vita. Kunaweza kuwa kuna amani, lakini kuna watu wana masononeko, wana manunguniko. Mheshimiwa Spika, wakati tulifanya uchaguzi, Mheshimiwa Spika, na tukapata rais, kulikuwa na kesi kidogo. Upande wa upinzani wa Azimio ulisema kwamba kuna masuala fulani hawajakubaliana nayo katika uchaguzi, na tukaenda mpaka mahakama ya upeo. Mheshimiwa Spika, tuliheshimu matokeo kutoka kwa mahakama ya upeo, lakini hatukuridhika, na tukasema kwamba kuna mambo machache yanafaa kufanyika baada ya uchaguzi. Mheshimiwa Spika, ya kwanza ni kufungua server, kwa sababu katika uchaguzi ni lazima tuangalie kama tulienda vizuri, na kuangalia kama tulienda vizuri ni kuangalia server. Katika taasisi ambazo zinatumia pesa, mwisho huwa tunafanya uhasibu ama audit. Kwa hivyo audit, Mheshimiwa Spika, ama uhasibu ni jambo la muhimu, na katika yale mazungumzo ni vyema ile ripoti itakayokuja iangalie basi ni vipi tutafungua ile server. Ya pili, Mheshimiwa Spika, ni mambo ya mfumuko wa bei. Mheshimiwa Spika, baada tumechaguana na tukawa na serikali, tuliona ya kwamba hali ya maisha iko juu, lakini tuliona serikali iliyomo wanapandisha ushuru. Na
Senator Mandago, what's your point of order?
Mesikia Senator Mwaruma akisema kama tutapata nafasi ya kufungua saba. Nafikiri mjadala ambayo iko hapa sio ya kufungua saba, kwa maana Mr. Speaker, wale waliokuwa na kifungu, wale wenye saba walikuwa watu Azimio, wale wenye walikuwa na kifungu ya saba ni watu ya Azimio, waende watafute mahali walikuwa wameiacha Mr. Speaker, waende wakafungue saba.
Senator Mwaruma, just confine yourself to the motion before us, please.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa mwelekeo, lakini katika yale masuala ambayo yako katika meza kutoka kwa upande wa Azimio, moja lilikuwa ni kufanya uhasibu ama audit ya server. Kwa hivyo nikitaja server ni kwa sababu swala moja ambalo liko katika majadiliano litakuwa ni kufungua server. Mheshimiwa Spika, mambo ya maandamano ni haki yetu kama Wakenya katika ibara ya 37. Nimeona maandamano yakitokea hata kule Uasin Gishu kwa sababu watu wanataka pesa yao ya kwenda ambayo walilipa ya kwenda ng'ambo. Pia hiyo server pia ni lazima ifunguliwe, tujue nini ambacho kilikuwa kimetokea. Mheshimiwa Spika,
Senator Methu. Order, senators. May Senator Methu be heard in silence.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me an opportunity. I rise to support this particular motion, and in the words of Senator Oburu, he says that we are supporting and opposing. We are supporting and giving reservations. I think that is a little difference that is there. Of course, because we have our own reasons. Even my position as to why I would want to support this, because the leader of majority and the leader of minority have spoken and have said that it is fair that we allow people to speak. But I feel in my heart that there's a question that we are not addressing and cannot be addressed by the 10-member committee of the dialogue committee. Number one, Mr. Speaker, in my opinion, I feel that the best national dialogue happened on the 9th of August, Mr. Speaker, and the people of Kenya spoke. 50 million of the people of Kenya spoke to this particular issue, and they voted for William Ruto. There is nothing that the 10-member committee can do to it. The final and the apex of that matter was at the Supreme Court. There's nothing that Kimani Ichung'wah and Kalonzo Musyoka can do to that particular fact. William Ruto will be our president, and there's nothing that will change. Whether you do audit of the server, whatever you do to it, that matter has been rested, Mr. Speaker. Then number two, Mr. Speaker, I would want to understand, Mr. Speaker, now that people were on the streets and businesses were destroyed, both public and private, and people died, how will the national dialogue address to the person who lost their son, to the person who lost their property, and to the losses that we got as a country, Mr. Speaker? Because, Mr. Speaker, this behavior of I'm twisting government every time, and Senator Oburu says that this is the first dialogue. This is not the first dialogue, Mr. Speaker. This is not the first national dialogue, Mr. Speaker. The only constant thing is the players, Mr. Speaker, is that every time there's an election, one person does not agree that he has lost, so he has to force a dialogue every time. It happened in 2008. Maybe he says that we are young. Yes, we are young, but in 2008 we were alive, and we saw that there was a dialogue, there was a national dialogue in 2008, Mr. Speaker, and then there was another one, there's another one that is happening now, Mr. Speaker. If we do not put an end to this kind of sarcasm, Mr. Speaker, at every election, we have to do a national dialogue so that we accommodate some people, so that we incorporate some issues, then we shall have gotten it wrong, Mr. Speaker. Finally, Mr. Speaker, I also feel that we are taking the people of Kenya for a ride, Mr. Speaker. I've looked at the agenda in that particular talk, Mr. Speaker. Oh, pardon. I've looked at the agenda that is...
Next is Senator Chuta Mohamed. Proceed.
Asanti sana
Uko kwa queue.
Mheshimiwa Spika, ningependa kusikizwa.
Proceed and conclude your 2 minutes remaining.
Mheshimiwa Spika, Bwana Wamatinga, Senator Wamatinga anani distract kidogo tafadhali. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika. Mheshimiwa Spika, nataka sana kumshukuru kiongozi yetu hapa walio wengi na pia kiongozi ya walio wachache. Mheshimiwa Spika, hii mjadala ni kama inaenda sizikizwi. Mheshimiwa Spika,
on the members, let the Senator Chutem be hand in silence.
Mheshimiwa Spika, nataka sana kushukuru President wetu na baba Raila Odinga pia kwa kuwezesha hii mkutano iwe. Mheshimiwa Spika, Kenya hii iko na watu zaidi ya milioni 50 ambayo sisi tunaongoza. Wale watu wanaongoza, Mheshimiwa Spika, ni wale wamechaguliwa kutoka County Assembly. Karibu Bwana Spika. Wale watu wanaongoza watu milioni 50, Mheshimiwa Spika. Mheshimiwa Spika, iko kelele nyingi kutoka kila kona.
Honorable Senators, kindly let's allow Senator Chute to make his contribution in silence.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika. Nilikuwa nasema watu milioni 50 wameweza kuchagua watu kutoka County Assembly, National Assembly na Senate. Mheshimiwa Spika, ile shida leo iko katika nchi hii baada ya watu kupiga kura. Mheshimiwa Spika, pande zote mbili, pande za opposition na yaani ya Kenya Kwanza kwetu na Azimio, wanapiga kelele nyingi sana. Mheshimiwa Spika, tumepiga kura tukamaliza kura. Ukisikia watu ya Kenya Kwanza wanaenda kwa mazishi, wanaenda kwa harusi, wanaenda mahali yote ya siasa, wanaongea siasa tupu. Baba amekuwa hivi, nani amekuwa hivi. Hiyo haiwezi kusaidia nchi hii. Na watu ya uko pande hiyo pia ya Azimio wakienda mahali wanasema sava ifunguliwe, wanaongea mambo ya ati chakula iko bei juu, na hawa pia walikuwa wanachangilia hiyo chakula kwa bei juu. Mheshimiwa Spika, nashukuru sana leo watu ambaye wamechaguliwa wako hapa ni waheshimiwa. Hawa watu Mwenyezi Mungu ndiye amepatia nafasi ya kuongoza watu Kenya. Tuwache kuongea mahali tunaongea kwa mazishi, kwa harusi na mahali ya kuna siasa yote. Kwa sababu ukiangalia saa hii Mheshimiwa Spika, kuna vijana katika Senate na hata National Assembly. Wakiamuka wanataja jina Uhuru Kenyatta. Wakilala jina Uhuru Kenyatta. Wakitembea jina Uhuru Kenyatta. Na pande ile pia wakisimama, wakifanya mahali yote wanaongea juu ya mambo ya Ruto. Mupatie nafasi Mheshimiwa Ruto ajenge nchi hii. Wacha achukue nafasi, tupatie nafasi ajenge nchi hii. Na ya mwisho Mheshimiwa Spika, nataka kusema hivi. Majadiliano.
Senator Siango.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I stand to support this motion. One, it is very important because this country is bigger than any of us. And I want to thank the President and the Prime Minister for agreeing to have this dialogue. I want to remind those of us who are saying that the last election, who won and who lost, they were not IEBC. Unless you want to tell us there is no difference between UDA and IEBC. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is very important to know that in this country we need peace.
What is the point of order, Senator Gloria?
Mr. Speaker, I think we are not doing justice to this motion, because what we are doing now is the dialogues. Mr. Speaker, the dialogues that we are supposed to have, misleading the public and the House. 53. Standing order 53.
Senator Eddy, you know the
Mr.
chair.
Speaker, I have standing order 53. Mr. Speaker, I think we are not doing justice to this House, because now starting to invoke IEBC, starting to invoke all these names, let us be guided that we keep to the motion, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Honorable senators, I think we've been doing fine till at this point. Senator Siengo, kindly prosecute the motion.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker was saying it is very important to have dialogue, because peace is very key. Whenever in a country there is no peace, when there are conflicts and disputes, and there is violence, it's women and children who suffer most. And it is very important to maintain peace in this country. Mr. Speaker, sir, when we are talking of every election, there one person who is claiming this and that, I want to remind this House, it is the wearer of the shoe who knows where it pinches most. When one is denied his victory, it is him who knows what to say, because the victory is his and it has been snatched away from him. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, allow me to remind all of us that we should support this motion, because it is giving this country, Kenya, a way forward, and we trust the process. We trust the people who have been placed and appointed to lead this dialogue, and it is very important that we support the motion and we give this country a chance to heal and to move forward in peace. Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to finish by saying this. It is really unfortunate.
What is your point of order?
Also. Mr. Speaker, I take this House very seriously and I raise understanding order number 121. Mr. Speaker, number 121 says disorderly conduct, that a senator is disorderly in this, if the senator knowingly raises a false point of order. Mr. Speaker, Senator Gloria rose in this House.
Eddie, just take your seat. Just take your seat first. Please.
Mr. Speaker.
Just yield, please. Senator Eddie, in the same breath as you're reading the standing orders, you can only stand on a point of order to call to order a senator who is contributing. As you speak, Senator Siengo is on her feet. Unless your point of order is directed to her, you're out of order. Kindly proceed to conclude your contributions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mine was to say finally, Mr. Speaker, whenever there is any dispute or disagreement over any issue of national importance, it is important that police are restrained. We cannot allow police to continue pressuring Kenyans who are also citizens of this country. And then leadership of this country stands to praise.
Senator Kinyua.
Asante Bwana Spika kunipa fursa hii. Bwana Spika, laiti tungelifuata filosofia ya Nyayo ambayo inasema amani, upendo na umoja. Bwana Spika, umoja ni nguvu, utengano ni udhaifu. Bwana Spika, mazungumzo ni mazuri kwa sababu sisi sote tuko katika nchi yetu ya Kenya, Bwana Spika. Na haya mazungumzo yalianzwa na maseneta werendi sana, Bwana Spika. Unakumbuka Seneta Enoch Wambua wa kutoka Kitui na Seneta Wakili ambao walianzisha haya mazungumzo. Na msingi walioweka, Bwana Spika, laiti ni msingi huo ungetumiwa, kwa sababu waliangazia mambo ambayo seneti hii, shida zinazopitiwa na seneti hii nafikiri hayo mazungumzo Bwana Spika yangeendeleza hayo maneno Bwana Spika. Kwa sababu Bwana Spika, ukisoma kitabu kitakatifu cha Mungu kinasema watu wakitembea wakiwa wengi wanaweza kwenda mbali. Mtu akitembea peke yake ataenda haraka Bwana Spika, na atasulubiwa akiwa peke yake. Kwa hivyo ni vizuri vile ambavyo kuna haya mazungumzo watu wazungumze. Lakini Bwana Spika, kwa sababu mimi ni mfugaji Bwana Spika, na ninajua ya kwamba ng'ombe akishambuliwa na simba Bwana Spika, ni vizuri kufuata simba Bwana Spika, badala ya kuja kupambana na hawa inzi ambao wanafyonza damu ya yule ng'ombe aliyoachwa. Bwana Spika, sisi tunajua simba ni yupi Bwana Spika ambaye ameleta shida hizi Bwana Spika. Na juzi tu mimi nimemsikia akisema ya akileta vitisho ya kuwa haya mazungumzo yakivurugwa watu watarudi katika maandamano Bwana Spika. Sisi tunataka kukashifu hayo mambo Bwana Spika, kwa sababu ikiwa watu wamekuja kwa mazungumzo, tunamheshimiwa Kalonzo Musyoka Bwana Spika, tunamheshimiwa Ishongwa Bwana Spika. Bwana Spika, tunamheshimiwa kiongozi walio wengi katika Senate hii ambaye tunamuenzi na tunajua kwamba atafanya mambo ya busara katika haya mazungumzo. Lakini Bwana Spika, ikiwa baada ya sisi kusema tumekubaliana watu ende katika mazungumzo, vitisho vinaanza, tutaenda katika maandamano Bwana Spika. Na kila mtu anajua Bwana Spika, shida zilizoko katika nchi hii ya Kenya, ni nani anayeleta hizi shida Bwana Spika. Sisi tulikubaliana na watu tayari wakasonga mbele Bwana Spika. Watu wakasonga mbele, uchaguzi ukafanywa, rais akatangazwa, lakini sasa Bwana Spika kuna vijisababu na vizigizio ya kwamba ati haya mazungumzo Bwana Spika yanaelekea kuanguka. Na Bwana Spika, mimi nikiangalia kwa ndani kabisa, nimemsikiza Mheshimiwa Mungatana, nikamsikiza Mheshimiwa Dulo, na hao ndio wamegonga dipo Bwana Spika. Hakuna mahali ambapo kunasemekana ya kwamba mshindi akishinda Bwana Spika anapaswa kukaa chini aongee na wale wengine ambao uliwashinda.
Senator Shakila.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipatia hii fursa kuchangia huu mswada. Mheshimiwa Spika, naunga mkono huu mswada na nawapongeza viongozi kwa kukubaliana kukaa chini kuleta amani ya nchi ili nchi ipone. Mheshimiwa Spika, mazungumzo ni kitu muhimu sana, lakini mazungumzo yanaweza kuharibiwa na wale ambao wako nje wanaochangia uchochezi. Mheshimiwa Spika, tunaomba hususan sisi viongozi tuache uchochezi, tuache ile kamati ambayo imechaguliwa ifanye kazi yao, ilete ripoti yao ili ipate kujadiliwa, nchi ipone. Lakini tukianza uchochezi kabla hata mazungumzo hayajaanza, Mheshimiwa Spika, sioni kama tutafika kokote juu ya mazungumzo kama haya. Na jambo lingine Mheshimiwa Spika, tumeongelea sana hapo juu ya vitu kuharibiwa, watu kuuawa, lakini ukweli ni kwamba wale wanaoenda maandamano hawana silaha, silaha zinakuwa na polisi. Kwa hivyo tunataka pia wale polisi ambao wamesababisha vifo wachukuliwe hatua, na wale ambao wameuawa pia wawe compensated, wafidiwe kwa yale mauaji ambayo yametokea kwa zile familia ambao wamepoteza wapendwa wao. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Spika, haya mazungumzo tunaomba yawe ni mazungumzo ambayo yataleta natija kwa nchi, na isiwe ni yale mazungumzo ambayo tutarudi kwenye ile BBI ambayo ilifanyika last time. Tunaona pengine mazungumzo kama haya yakienda kuwa BBI, sioni kama kutakuwa na natija yoyote, lakini tunaomba ni mazungumzo yao yataleta natija, yataponya nchi na yataleta umoja na nchi ipate kuendelea mbele. Asante Mheshimiwa Spika.
Senator Mundigi.
Asante Bwana Spika kwa kunipa nafasi kuchangia mazungumzo ambaye itakuwa ikiendelea kwa wale walichaguliwa watu 10, walio wengi na walio wachache. Yangu ni kidogo tu kusema itakuwa ni aibu kubwa sana kutoka miaka mingi, kila miaka 5 tukichaguana, walio wachache wakishindwa wanaenda kurusha mawe, wanaenda kuua watu, kufanya mambaya, halafu kila wakati yote wanakuja kusema tusemesane. Ingawa katika Biblia inasema watu wawili hawezi kutembea pamoja bila kuelewanwa, mimi naunga mkono, lakini nataka niseme mwaka wa 2027 tutaenda kwa uchaguzi. Nataka mjiandae, tukutane pale, hii itakuwa ni mambo ya mwisho. Nataka nimwambie pia, mnakumbuka katika Biblia Yesu alikuwa anatembea na Judas na kuridhika mpaka dakika ya mwisho. Kwa hivyo mkifikiria mtakuwa kila wakati yote mnajifanya kama Judas, mwaka wa 2027 mpaka tutawatimua mbio na mtarudia hivyo mpaka tutawatema. Ya pili, mnasema mambo ya kufungua sava. Ya tatu, mnasema mambo ya kuua. Mambo mingi mmesema na nyinyi mmeharibu. Hata mambo ya mvua, mngeulizwa hata mvua ingenyesha. Kwa hiyo niko na huzuni sana na nyinyi. Mvurundi, tusemesane, tusikie pamoja. Biblia iko juu, wacha mseme Biblia iko chini. Biblia iko juu, tutatembea pamoja ndio tuweze kuenda safari moja kwa hii kipindi ya miaka 5. Asante Bwana Spika, naunga mkono. Lakini sio ile ya Judas na Yesu.
Honorable Senators, the 1 hour is long spent. I will therefore call upon the mover to reply.
Mr. Speaker, I beg your attention. Mr. Speaker, I want to beg your indulgence because in replying, I know that I have 15 minutes to reply. Whether I'd been ordered to donate just 3 minutes to the 3.
So, Senator Cheptumo.
Just 1, 2.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Speaker, for donating those few minutes. Mr. Speaker, this motion intends to request the House to approve the dialogue committee. I want to support that motion, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, if you look at paragraph 6 of this motion, it talks about the mandate of this committee. Mr. Speaker, as we do all this, and I'm going to be very brief because of my time, as we approve the establishment of the dialogue committee and as establish the mandate, Mr. Speaker, I think one issue, Mr. Speaker, we need to agree as a country and as a House is, as Mr. Speaker, we should never justify violence, Mr. Speaker, as we discuss issues. It appears to me, Mr. Speaker, that what is happening in the country today is we want to use violence to justify conversation and dialogue. Mr. Speaker, 2007, this country almost collapsed and we used dialogue, and there was the Nusumkate government. In 2017, Mr. Speaker, the same situation, and we got the handshake. Again, Mr. Speaker, today, through violence, we have a conversation. My appeal to the committee, Mr. Speaker, is that we should put in place rules, laws, that is going to make it clear that after election, Mr. Speaker, and you lose an election, you should not perpetuate violence, so that again you justify to come back to discuss and share government that is intended to be done in this process, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I support.
Senator Nyutu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for affording me this opportunity. I also rise to support this motion. But of course, like those that have spoken before me have said, Mr. Speaker, we may want to urge this dialogue committee that will be formed that it should only discuss matters affecting Kenyans and not any particular individual, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, though dialogue is a good thing, but we may want to beseech all of us that you should have dialogue not only after elections. that a dialogue should not be provoked through demonstrations and violence, Mr. Speaker, that we should be talking to one another as Kenyans, even when we do not have elections and even when we have not come out of elections. And Mr. Speaker, we must call out the hypocrisy from the Azimio side, that only one election out of 6 is problematic all the time. It cannot be, Mr. Speaker, that all the other 5 elections, apart from the presidential election, are okay, but the presidential election is never okay, and thus demonstrations have to happen and we are forced into a dialogue. So, Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, let this dialogue committee not discuss anything else other than issues affecting Kenyans and not the leaders in Azimio or whichever side. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rest my case.
Senator Wamatenga.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I was a bit worried, Mr. Speaker, when you called the mover to reply. Today in the morning, I set off from Nyeri very early to come and contribute to this debate. Mr. Speaker, sir, I would want to urge us sitting in this house, we were all elected. Mr. Speaker, sir, we know that it is important, yes, to have a conversation. But as important as it is to have a conversation, I would want to challenge ourselves moving forward. Now that we've agreed to embrace dialogue, we would want to see the minority side, when the CSS come here, sit down and listen and from their question. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is quite unfortunate. And I would want to urge the team that has been chosen to read this dialogue. In the last paragraph of their report, let us give as a formula that will ensure that Kenyans will no longer die on the streets because somebody has lost an election. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is indeed very deceptive. We know that the only genuine conversation is held every 5 years as envisaged by our constitution. It is indeed very unfair to the Kenyans, to the taxpayers, in a country that is really struggling to make economic recovery, that we have subjected the taxpayers again into paying additional costs for making 10 people sit down, and some of the name. I wish so much, Mr. Speaker, sir. In the other list that I saw, Senator Wambua, who is a good debater, who is a committed Christian, other than having somebody like Eunice Wamarwa, who you know that does not even qualify. And I would recommend in this house that we expunge the name of Eunice Wamarwa and replace that name with Senator Wambua, who we know is committed to delivering this country. Mr. Speaker, as I sit down, I would want to say that it is important that we have the right people in the right table so that we can move forward. Mr. Speaker, I support.
Senator Kamar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Leader of Majority, for giving me the 3 minutes. I want to join my colleagues in supporting the formation of the dialogue team. Mr. Speaker, this is not the first time this has happened in this country. I think we are a country that is created for dialogue. Mr. Speaker, there was IBBG during the Moi days, after 2007 elections, where I and you were elected. There was a session that had to bring the country together. We know very well, Mr. Speaker, that after the years of one-party system, Kenyans have not become a majority win. And it is very important that we recognize that so that we know that we are a country in diversity. It is therefore very important that we embrace something called dialogue always. Mr. Speaker, I support this, knowing also that we have a committee that should be proactive always. This committee called the Committee on National Cohesion, Equal Opportunity, and Regional Integration. Mr. Speaker, the National Assembly has a similar committee. It is not right that when we perform as our duties as an oversight body, that we don't converge to discuss these issues. I think the reason we are now seeking another dialogue session, which is in Parliament and outside Parliament, is partly because our committees are not being proactive. And I want to challenge the committees that they must be proactive, and when an issue arises, they should converge and they should even allow public participation. on an issue on a continuous basis. I'm happy personally that Parliament has been involved in this one. For this reason, I would like to encourage Mr. Speaker, yourself and the other speaker, that we become an oversight arm even of the current dialogue, so that we don't lose track, and whenever we find the committee is trying to lose track, we must discuss in this House and try to pull them together so that we complete in a better way. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I support.
Senator Mandago.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support the motion of the formation of a dialogue committee and adoption of the names that have been given. But however, Mr. Speaker, with a rider on the discussions that are going to happen. Number one, Mr. Speaker, I think in this country, one of the things we must acknowledge and accept is that once elections have been done and there is a dispute and Supreme Court speaks itself of the matter, then that matter should be considered rested. Mr. Speaker, I think as a nation, one of the most important things this committee should not do is to accept and set a precedence that when you lose election, you can actually use violence to get back to discussion and be accommodated within government. Mr. Speaker, I don't think that is what our Constitution intended. We need to be progressive, and once you lose an election, accept the results. You can challenge or propose amendments, change of policies that will probably address some of the things that are required without necessarily causing violence in the country. Mr. Speaker, I also want to urge those who are going to sit in that discussion that the center of discussion should be things that affect Kenyans. We in Kenya Kwanza, Mr. Speaker, had already proposed, and I wish the Azimio side would have just graciously accepted our proposal, that we create an official opposition leader position within Parliament, Mr. Speaker, and that was within our plan as Kenya Kwanza. Mr. Speaker, after all this suffering and violence, after the loss of property by Kenyans, after loss of lives, finally the chicken have come home to roost, and Azimio now have accepted that we need to create the position of official opposition, which we proposed, and we thought it is extremely important, Mr. Speaker, that those in the opposition can also be heard in Parliament, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as we conclude the dialogue, I would also want to urge those who are going to discuss that the compensation of property destroyed must also be discussed. And I propose, Mr. Speaker, to those who are going to sit there, that the funds should be sourced from political parties that were involved in those losses, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I support.
Senator Abbas.
Speaker, I'm actually disappointed. You have been doing very selective, giving the members when to talk. Actually, I'm really disappointed.
Senator Abbas, there's a dashboard.
My friend, it is not the first time or second time. It's actually happening in this place.
Proceed to make your contribution. Of course, I select who speaks.
We need dialogue in this house, actually, before we even go to other places. Okay, Honorable Speaker, I haven't said my issues.
Senator Cherengei, have a seat, please. Senator Bass, it is the duty of the Speaker to pick who to speak.
Mr.
And
Speaker,
that cannot be questioned. Proceed.
Okay, Honorable Speaker, I support the motion on the formation of the dialogue committee. I think this is the most appropriate time. This country has actually had a lot of problems in the past and even today. As we proceed with the dialogue, I want to ask the committee members to be very focused, and they shall not be listening to other people outside the committee. And the committee must take the interest of Kenyans first. And one thing I want to tell the country is that actually leaders should allow the dialogue to continue without any interruption. Because you hear always a story that the dialogue between this bipartisan meeting is exercise in futility from top leaders, which is a very unfortunate situation. It should not happen. You hear that if it does not succeed, that we are going back to the street. That should not happen. Therefore, I think this country needs to heal. This country needs to come together. This country needs to move forward. We have had enough. Many Kenyans have died. Many Kenyans have lost their properties. And therefore, it is a time that we come back together and we focus together. And we don't want to any time, because this country has a rule of law. The Constitution has allowed elections to take place. And then every year of the cycle of elections, we have problems. This should not happen. The winner must also accommodate. The loser must accept to have lost. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Sige, Wakili.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to also support the motion. And indeed, I rise to support the motion that has been moved by the leader of majority and seconded by the leader of minority. Speaker, speaking about dialogue, we hear peace, we hear reconciliation, we hear peacemaking, we hear conflict resolution. But, Mr. Speaker, far from the fact that we have got existing conflict, we are all aware of the fact that this country is also ruled by law, and it's a democratic state, that people went into elections sometimes in 2022 and a government was put in place. We, however, when we listen to the motion that has been placed before us and also the framework that is being set by the team that is expected to continue the dialogue, we expect that the mandate of this particular committee is confined to the issues which are within that particular mandate. Mr. Speaker, I would like to support the motion in terms of institutionalizing the committee that will speak to the issues that have been raised prior by Kenyans. Remember, we previously had a committee that sat and engaged for a couple of weeks leading to the current committee. And Mr. Speaker, it is listening to the move by the leader of majority, the issues that will be a subject of discussion before this committee are limited to developing reforms, facilitating dialogue, and bridging the differences between the two communities, which in this, the two political formations, Mr. Speaker, which in this case will ultimately allow the people of Kenya to allow the government of the day to execute on the mandate that was granted by the people in the election that was conducted in the year 2022. Mr. Speaker, I support this motion with those reservations, and I...
Now, honorable senators, I have 15 more senators wishing to contribute. We have long surpassed the 1 hour mark. The mover who is supposed to reply donated his reply time to the senators who are just allowed to make some contribution. I will therefore allow the mover under 1 minute, because that is what is left of you.
1 minute. Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank my colleagues who have taken time to comment on this very important exercise. You know, Mr. Speaker, as many shades of opinion have been expressed on this particular issue, that points to the task that is ahead of us. And we will try our best as a team to make sure that we move the country forward in this very difficult time. I appreciate each and every senator that has taken time to comment on this particular issue. Your concerns have been noted, and as we commence this exercise tomorrow, signing on the framework agreement, going through the agenda, Mr. Speaker, and begin the difficult work, Mr. Speaker, of moving the country to close ranks and move forward as a nation, we will be guided by the wisdom of all the senators that have spoken this afternoon. So I thank you and appreciate you, colleagues senators, for the time that you took. To those that didn't get an opportunity to speak, Mr. Speaker, my most sincere apologies. I'm sure we will find an opportunity again when we present the report before the House, Mr. Speaker, after 60 days, for them to comment and speak on it. With those very merry remarks, Mr. Speaker, I beg to move. Thank you. To reply, sorry.
Honorable senators, and now I proceed to put the question. Senator Cherengei, I call you to order, please. Aware that Article 1.1 of the Constitution provides that all sovereign power belongs to the people of Kenya and shall be exercised only in accordance with the Constitution,
Further, aware that Article 1, 2 of the Constitution provides that the people of Kenya may exercise their sovereign power either directly or through their democratically elected representatives, conscious that Article 10 of the Constitution espouses the national values and principles of governance, which include the rule of law, democracy, and participation of the people. Further, conscious that Article 94 of the Constitution provides that Parliament manifest the diversity of the nation, represent the will of the people, and exercise their sovereignty, recognizing that there is need to embrace consultation, dialogue, and consensus building as a way of resolving issues of concern to the people of Kenya. Cognizant that despite the constitutional and legal reforms on the electoral processes and the electoral laws after every election cycle, there has been mistrust of electoral outcomes, leaving the country divided. Further, cognizant that efforts to enhance constitutionalism, the rule of law, and respect of human rights need to be promoted. Aware that there have been previous calls and attempts at building consensus on issues of concern to the people of Kenya through bipartisan engagement in Parliament, appreciating the need to establish an inclusive forum for dialogue, consultation, and consensus building, and seeking to promote the peace, stability, and prosperity of the country, acknowledging that the majority party in Parliament and the minority party in Parliament have agreed to embrace dialogue through the establishment of a National Dialogue Committee to recommend a way forward on issues of concern to the people of Kenya. Now, therefore, the Houses of Parliament resolve as follows: that the two Houses of Parliament establish a National Dialogue Committee consisting of 10 members to represent the Kenya Kwanza Alliance, hereinafter Kenya Kwanza, a coalition constituting the majority part of Parliament of the Republic of Kenya, and Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition, hereafter Azimio, a coalition forming the minority part of Parliament of the Republic of Kenya. That each coalition shall appoint 5 members to the National Dialogue Committee, that the membership of the National Dialogue Committee shall be drawn from Parliament and outside Parliament, that the National Dialogue Committee shall comprise the following members to represent Kenya Kwanza: the Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah, Delegation Leader; Governor Cecily Mbarire, Deputy Delegation Leader; Honorable Senator Aaron Cheriot, Honorable Hassan Omar Hassan, and Honorable Catherine Wabilianga. That the National Dialogue Committee shall comprise the following members to represent Azimio: the Honorable His Excellency Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, Delegation Leader; the Honorable Opio Wandayi, Deputy Delegation Leader; Honorable Amina Munyazi, Honorable Eugene Wamalwa, and Honorable Senator Okongo Mogeni. That the mandate of the National Dialogue Committee shall be to facilitate dialogue and consensus building, and to recommend appropriate constitutional, legal, and policy reforms on issues of concern to the people of Kenya, to be framed by the National Dialogue Committee in line with the Constitution and the laws of the Republic of Kenya, and respecting the functional and institutional integrity of state organs. The Houses of Parliament note that the technical teams representing Kenya Kwanza and Azimio shall support the National Dialogue Committee. That the technical team representing Kenya Kwanza shall comprise the following persons: Dr. Mudhomi Ithanokulu, Dr. Linda Musumba, Dr. Duncan Ojwang, and Nick Biketi. That the technical team representing Azimio shall comprise the following persons: the Honorable Jeremiah Kioni, Professor Adams Olo, Abakri Zain Abakr, and Lynn Ngugi. That further, the National Dialogue Committee shall be assisted by 2 officers designated as communications secretaries, one of whom shall be appointed by leader of majority party and the other by the leader of the minority party. The Houses of Parliament further resolve that the National Dialogue Committee shall formulate and adopt a framework agreement to guide the bipartisan talks. That the National Dialogue Committee shall report to the leadership of Kenya Kwanza and Azimio coalitions within 60 days, and thereafter submit its report to Parliament. That in the execution of its mandate, the National Dialogue Committee may invite, engage with and consider submission from stakeholders, collect views from the public, and engage experts, professionals, and other technical resource persons as necessary. That the National Dialogue Committee shall determine its own rules of procedure. That the speakers and clerks of both Houses of Parliament shall provide secretariat and any other necessary support to facilitate the work of the National Dialogue Committee. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of the contrary opinion say nay?
The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 9, the Public Finance Management Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bills number 16 of 2023, second reading division.
Order, Senator Cherengei. Order, Senator Cherengei. Order. Senator Cherengei. Senator Cherengei, kindly, I call you to order. Senator Cherengei, have your seat, please. Kindly take your seat. Senator Cherengei, kindly take your seat. Take your seat. I will handle that. Senator Cherengei, take your seat. Senator Cherengei, you take your seat or I'll throw you out. Senator Cherengei. Senator Cherengei, take your seat. Take your seat. I'll handle that. I will handle that. Take your seat. Senator Cherengei, take your seat. I will handle your concerns. Take your seat. I will handle your concerns. Just take your seat. Senator Cherengei. Senator Cherengei, take your seat. Take your seat. Sergeant at arms. Sergeant at arms. Sergeant at arms. Senator Eddy, take your seat. Senator Cherengei, you take your seat or I'll order you to leave the chamber. Senator Cherengei. Senator Eddy, the chair is in control. Senator Eddy, kindly keep your cool. Senator Cherengei. Senator Cherengei, having prosecuted your concern, kindly take your seat. Senator Cherengei, for the very last time, I'm asking you to take your seat. Senator Cherengei, you're out of order. Kindly proceed to leave the chamber. Sergeant at arms, escort the member out of the chamber. Pardon? I order you to leave the chamber for the remainder of this session, for the remainder of today's sitting. Sergeant at Arms, kindly use the necessary force under Standing Order 126 to get the senator out. Order, honorable senators. Order, honorable senators. Senator Mazayo, your utterances are totally out of order. You cannot call a colleague a kid. All the senators seated here are honorable senators. Kindly proceed to withdraw that statement, failure to which I will ask you to leave the chamber. Withdraw and apologize.
Asante Bwana Spika. Bwana Spika, nasikitika kwa matamshi niliyosema kwa ndugu yangu Cherargei. Ni bahati mbaya na mimi nataka kuyachukua niyaregeshe. Asante sana Bwana Spika.
Sergeant at Arms, kindly ring the division bell for 5 minutes. For just 2 minutes.
Well, the motion on the establishment of the National Dialogue Committee has just been completed, with majority of the members voting for its establishment. Apparently, it's a division bell for 2 minutes as directed by the Speaker, Honorable Amason Kingi. What is currently on the floor of the House is the Public Finance Management Amendment Bill, originating from the National Assembly, Bill number 16 of 2023. It is a bill that has been tabled by the Senate Majority Leader, Honorable Aaron Cheriot, and it's a bill that is at its second stage. Debate on this particular bill already took place in the floor of the House, and what will be happening now is that the members will be going into division to vote on this particular bill. And we understand the bill is also lined up to be considered at the committee of the whole House stage once the division stage has been done. A look at what exactly this bill entails is that this bill seeks to amend the Public Finance Management Act number 18 of 2012 to operationalize the public debt and borrowing with regard to the framework for monitoring the level of public debt to align it with the provisions of Article 214(2) of the Constitution, which defines public debt to mean all financial obligations attendant to loans raised or guaranteed and securities issued or guaranteed by the national government. So what is underway is a division bell, 2 minutes. As you can see, members are just grabbing a bottle of water to clear their throats, perhaps waiting to take the vote on this bill. Allow me to hand you over now for this process.
Kindly remove your delegate's card from the unit. Just remove your card from the unit. Sergeant at Arms, go round and pick the cards that are still in the delegates unit. Sergeant at Arms, if you're done collecting the cards, kindly give me a signal. Sergeant at Arms, are we ready? Good. Now, honorable senators, kindly log back into the delegates unit and vote by pressing yes, no, or abstain. And the voting is hybrid. We will also allow those who've joined us online to also take part in the voting. Log back and proceed to vote. Voting starts now. Senator Mariam.
Honorable Senators, kindly take your seats so that we report the vote. Honorable Senators, the vote for the division is as follows. Ayes 31, noes 0, abstentions 0. The ayes have it.
A bill for an act of parliament to amend the Public Finance Management Act and for connected purposes.
Next order. Sergeant at Arms, kindly open the doors and withdraw the bars.
Order number 10, Committee of the Whole. The Public Finance Management Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bills number 16 of 2023.
We are on the Public Finance Management Bill. We have a few clauses on the bill, and senators
Honorable members, we are now on the Public Finance Management Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bills number 16 of 2023. We have got a few amendments, and I will request that honorable members please remain in the chamber because we will need to go for division. We will not be long. Thank you.
So we will start clauses 3, 4, and 5.
Honorable members, I propose the question that clauses 3, 4, and 5 be part of the bill. And I put the question that clauses 3, 4, and 5 be part of the bill. Division at the end.
Clause 6.
Honorable members, I propose that I propose the question that clause 6 be part of the bill. I also ask the chairperson, Standing Committee on Finance and Budget, to move the amendment.
Thank you, Chair. I do propose that the amendment on clause 6 be amended as indicated in the order paper. And Mr. Chair, as per our deliberations in the committee, the clause 6 that we seek amendment does indicate the issue that talks about the exceptional circumstances, that I want to indicate that this is an issue that we really sought advice from the Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Treasury, in regards to at what point exceptional circumstances will make the minister be able to effect and be able to determine the percentage as per the GDP. And Mr. Speaker, this was well expounded, and hence that is why we seek the amendment to be done. And the other issue, Mr. Speaker, is on the issue of the National Assembly not being the only house. This is a bicameral assembly. Mr. Chair, can I be heard in silence?
Honorable members, Senator Lelengwe. Senator Lelengwe, kindly take your seat. Give Senator Tabitha time to prosecute the amendments. Senator Manzo,
Thank you.
take your seat. Resume your seat, Senator Manzo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And we also noted as a committee that this amendment was only in regards to the issue of the debt status of this country. It was only to be discussed at the National Assembly, but our amendment also proposed that Senate be part of tabling of this report as far as the debt status of this country is concerned. So both houses shall be receiving these two reports every 30th April of every year, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Chair.
I now propose the question that Clause 6 be amended as proposed, and put the question that Clause 6 be amended as proposed. Division at the end.
Clause 2.
Honorable members, I propose the question that Clause 2 be part of the bill, and put the question that Clause 2 be part of the bill. Division at the end.
The title and Clause 1.
Honorable members, I propose the question that the title and Clause 1 be part of the bill, and put the question that the title and Clause 1 be part of the bill. Division at the end. Honorable members, we're now getting into divisions. We are going to conduct electronic voting, and I'll request that honorable members be prepared. There will be two questions at the committee in this division. The first question is on Clause 6, and the second question is on 3, 4, 5, 6. The third one will be at the third reading. Honorable members, I now put the question that Clause 6 be amended as proposed. Sergeant at Arms, could you please ring the quorum bell for 2 minutes?
Well, two amendments, or rather just a few amendments, had been brought forth on the Public Finance Management Amendment Bill 2023, Bill number 16 of 2023, originating from the National Assembly, which is currently at the Committee of the Whole House stage on the floor of the Senate this afternoon. And the amendments have already been moved, and
Honorable members, I advise that you log out from the system. Let's log out and log in before voting starts. And Sergeant at Arms, you may collect the unattended cards. You may now log in. Kindly log in. Honorable members, I now put the question that Clause 6 be amended as proposed. Voting starts now.
Deputy Speaker, Deputy Speaker, take your vote. You have briefed. Okay. That's all. Delegation, eh?
Senator Cheptumo, Senator Mariam, proceed to the dispatch desk. Honorable members, we now move to the next question that is on all clauses, and I put the question that clause 3, 4, 5, clause 6 as amended, clause 2, the title, and clause 1 be part of the bill. Members, you may now proceed to vote on those questions. Yes, voting starts now. Proceed to vote. Senator Mariam, proceed to get assisted to vote. Honorable members, these are the results of divisions under clause 6. Ayes 31, nays 0. The ayes have it. And honorable members, the results of the second division, ayes 31, nays 0, abstentions 0. The ayes have it. Now, honorable members, I now call upon the mover, Senator Tabitha, to move the amendments. Senator Tabitha, proceed. To move the report of the committee, sorry, to move the report of the committee. Sergeant at Arms, you may just hold for a few minutes, just hold for a second.
Mr. Chairman, I beg to move that the committee do report to the Senate its consideration of the Public Finance Management Amendment Bill, National Assembly number 16, and its approval, therefore, with amendments.
Honorable members, I now put the question that the committee do report to the House its consideration of the Public Finance Management Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bills number 16 of 2023, and its approval thereof with amendments. With as many as of that opinion say aye. With as many as of a contrary opinion say nay. The ayes have it.
The last vote, the third reading. So that
members, we have one more vote to make. So, yeah, do what you are pretending to do. So, Chairperson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wish to report, Honorable Speaker, that the Committee of the Whole has considered the Public Finance Management Amendment Bills, National Assembly Bills number 16 of 2023, and seeks leave to sit again tomorrow. Sorry, Mr. Speaker, this is a...
Sorry, can you approach the table kindly?
Mr. Speaker, I withdraw my earlier report, and Honorable Speaker, I beg to report that the Committee of the Whole has considered the Public Finance Management Amendment Bill, National Amendment Bills number 16 of 2023, and its approval thereof with amendments.
Thank you.
I thank you.
Very well. Mover. Mover.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the House do agree with the committee of the said report. And I call...
Yeah, who is your second?
I call Senator Eddie Okech to second.
Is he aware that he is to second?
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, as a proud member of the Committee of Finance, I do second.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Eddie. I propose the question that the House do agree with the committee in the same report. I put the question that the House do agree with the committee in the same report. As many as of that opinion say aye. As those of the contrary opinion say nay. Okay, move again.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the Public Finance Management Amendment Bill, National Assembly number 1623, be now read at that time. I still ask Senator Eddie Okech to second.
Senator Okech.
Mr. Speaker, I do second.
Thank you. Honorable Senators, I propose the question that the Public Finance Management Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bills number 16 of 2023, be now read at that time. I put the question that the Public Finance Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 16 of 2023, be now read at that time. We have division again. Last one. Ring the column bell for 1 minute. Or the shortest time that you can be able to do it. Let's set the system light for voting. Sitting the members, can you kindly vote? Proceed and vote. Senator Mariam, approach the table.
Mjisqueeze hapo watano kusqueeze.
Hapana, maybe excess.
Nini wewe shughulika na steering, mimi niko huku nyuma na watu.